stop, won't stop, don't stop now. Don't stop now.
Good evening, everyone. If you will stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin. Okay, at this time I would like to call the meeting to order. Individuals wishing to address the City Council are requested to complete a speaker card and deliver it to the City Clerk staff prior to the item being heard by the City Council. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for communications, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. This evening we have some proclamations and some recognitions. At this time I would like to invite Chief Young, Emma Barbarossa, and Richard Villainous to join me. Did I say that right? Villainous. Sorry about that. Had to kind of make it up on the fly. Chief?
So rather than actually read the complete commendation, this is just another opportunity to recognize some amazing people in our city. We do this every quarter when we have the opportunity to recognize cardiac arrest saves. This time we have a variety of both. You were able to save your mother, which is absolutely amazing when you can make a positive impact to your own family member. And you have saved somebody in your gym. This is the second time we've had a cardiac arrest in a jiu-jitsu studio in the city of Corona, so obviously a safe place to work out. But we want to really take this moment to inspire everybody in our community to take an active role in saving a human life, whether it's a loved one or somebody that's your friend or happen to be in a public setting. So Congratulations to both of you on your cardiac arrest saves and making an impact to the citizens of Corona. And after we get a quick photo with the four of us, we can bring your mom up too, because I think it's a pretty amazing testament to the great things that happen.
One sec, guys. I always like to ask this because we have such an initiative in our city with our amazing fire department to train on CPR. So, Emma, how did you learn CPR? Okay. Okay. Well, I'm glad that it still worked. I know that they update all the time, and so I would see the chief if you want to update your skills. Although they seem to be working, so excellent. And Richard? Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, and I'm sure that the recipients of your CPR training are certainly happy. And Emma, your mom's here with us? Yeah. Where's she at? Come on down, Mom. We are certainly very happy to have you here with us this evening, as I'm sure you are as well. So why don't we take a picture? Chief, I think that is becoming my new favorite proclamation and recognition to give, especially having Mom here with us tonight. So thank you very much. All right, moving on to the meeting minutes. Let's see. The approval of the minutes for the City Council meeting of February 15th, 2023, and the study session meeting of February 15th, 2023. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public for the meeting?
Mayor, we do not have any speaker cards for the meeting minutes.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Did you push the button?
I did push the button.
I'll second.
All right.
Did you push the button?
I did push the button.
All right, let's vote. Okay, that item passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine matters, status reports, or documents covering previous city council action. The items listed on the consent calendar may be enacted in one motion with the concurrence of the city council. A council member or any person in attendance may request that an item be removed for further consideration. Do my colleagues have any items that would like to be pulled?
Number 10.
Number 10. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we received one speaker card for agenda item number 9.
Okay. So then, let's see, do we have a motion for items 7, 8, and 11?
Yes, I'll move to approve.
Okay,
Second.
let's vote. Okay, that item passes 5-0. Moving on, numerical order, item number 9, there was a speaker card. If you want to go to the podium. Welcome.
Hello? Okay, sorry. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Alicia Gillenhammer, and I am the field manager at Top Scale and also represent Lawson Construction. I am here tonight to ask for a continuation on item number 9, which states it's a short form construction contract for water reclamation facility number 1 scale with Michelle Measurement Group Incorporated. That's on the agenda. I have been seeking meetings with multiple departments, including the council members here, and I very much appreciate some of the council members that have met with me to share how there are many outstanding issues that are in question regarding this item number 9, including how our companies, Topscale and Lawson Construction, have literally bid this exact bid that is called City of Corona Utilities Department WRF1 truck scale bid 3 times starting last year in June 2022, and have come out as the lowest bidder each time, which is in part of the criteria that you have to meet. And yet each time we have not been awarded on this bid. The last time, which is the 3rd time around, our companies, Topscale and Lawson Construction, were the lowest bidder at $112,743.75. And the second lowest bidder, Michele Measurement Group, who would be awarded the bid tonight, was at $156,590.40. That's a cost difference of $43,846.65, a City of Corona residents' taxpayer money that could be going to far more significant initiatives or needs. And furthermore, Michele, the second lowest bidder, being at $156,590.40, exceeded the range of $140,000 that the City of Corona required in the last bid. These are some of the many issues and reasons and questions that the City Council members, such as yourselves, should grant a continuation to further investigate these serious issues in question, especially since the city would be spending an extra $43,846.65 of taxpayer money. Again, I'd like to kindly ask for a continuation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve this item.
I'll second, and I'll just note that this issue has been thoroughly reviewed, and staff has been in communication. Thank you.
Okay, please vote. Okay. Okay. Well, the motion already passed. Okay. Well, just to be clear for the record, the item as written in the consent item passed. So there was no amended motion that was brought forward. So as it is on consent, the item passed. If you still want to speak, I'll allow you 3 minutes to do so.
I don't know who in the chamber here actually reviews the whole documentation and everything, so I don't know exactly who I'm speaking to. But from my understanding, the 3rd request for the scale at this location had a specific load cell and type of setup to be used. As far as I'm aware, we met that, and that is why we were awarded the bid. So I think that's something to take into account when you guys review your motion you just passed.
Thank you for your comments, but just to be clear, the bid was awarded on consent to Michele Measurement Group.
Correct.
So there was no disagreement with the consent.
I took it as you're going to review and go on and think, well, then that's a very good thing to hear.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 10. Mr. Richens, you pulled this, so I'll let you take the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This contract for number 10 is for $385,000 for a truck, an electric truck. And so I started digging into it, and it's a terminal tractor. And there's only one company that makes electric terminal tractors. So I know that this terminal tractor is at the end of its life, but when you can only buy from one company a terminal tractor, then you end up paying $424,000 for a $200,000 truck. So I think there's some other options that can be, that the city could go down. They could fix up the one they have now. Whatever repairs need to be done to that truck, I'm positive they're not going to equal 424,000. And I think the city needs to wait as long as possible until there's another company that makes terminal tractors. And I would also like to say the reason that they're doing this is because of the AQMD. AQMD has said any city or municipality with 15 or more trucks has to use non-diesel trucks. So the reason why they're asking for this almost $500,000 truck is because we are a city of more than 15 trucks. But I would like to see the rejection letter from AQMD. I think we need someone to talk to the AQMD to see if there's any exceptions that can be made. To date, no one has talked to AQMD. And I just don't think we're spending money wisely at $424,000 for a truck. So I think there's other options out there.
Is there an alternate motion?
My alternate motion is to delay this vote until they can find something that's common sense and not a $424,000 truck.
Mayor, real quick, can we get some, maybe some input on the subject itself before we do an alternative
Yeah,
motion?
would you like a staff report?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would too.
Is this Mr. Moody?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Katie Hockett, Deputy or Assistant Director is here today to answer some questions on this.
Yes, so as Vice Mayor Richens stated, the current truck is not in compliance with AQMD Rule 1196, which does say that if we have more than 15 heavy-duty vehicles for a single fleet, then they have to be alternative fuel. In this case, I understand the request to go back to AQMD and ask them for a waiver. AQMD is probably the strictest of it's definitely the strictest air quality district in the state of California, and it's probably the strictest of the regulators that we work with. We use this tractor to move the trucks around the treatment plant. We will use them to move them to the new scale when we have the scale. We use it for loading and for staging the trailers so that they can be picked up. We do understand it's a significant cost, but it does have a long lifespan, which we think will be good, and it will also benefit the entire fleet by being a zero-emission vehicle, which we know that we'll have to meet in future regulations.
So again, now is not the right time to buy automobiles because they're high priced right now. We are just coming out of COVID and automobiles have become high priced. And then second, it's a $425,000 truck. Why can't you fix up the truck that's there? Like, you can put flames on it for less than $424,000.
I understand. Even if we fix it up, it still will not be in compliance with the rule.
But you bought the truck before the rule came out, so the truck is still in compliance because it was purchased before the AQMD set that policy, right?
I don't have that in front of me today. I don't know when we got this particular truck that we have.
It's in the staff report, so the truck's older than 20 years, and the 1196 rule is not older than 20 years. So the truck was before the rule. And everybody says the AQMD is impossible to work with, and I'm not a fan of the AQMD, and I have different letters in my head what they mean. But at least go ask them and say, just so they know how unreasonable they're being, get their rejection letter. And then I started exploring the exceptions to the rules, and they're out there. No one's done the legwork to explore them yet.
I should have mentioned that because you did bring up the exceptions. There are exceptions in the rule, and this particular truck doesn't comply. So as an example, we can buy diesel fire trucks because those are emergency response vehicles. We can buy diesel SWAT vehicles, Bearcats, things like that, because those are emergency response vehicles. There's some other exceptions, but they don't apply in this case, unfortunately.
Fortunately, this vehicle was purchased before these rules came out, so there's all sorts of exceptions. The exceptions are if you want to buy a new truck. This truck was before that rule came out. I think you guys are picking the wrong time to buy a new vehicle. Prices are high for vehicles, and I think in 5-10 years, there's going to be more than one company that makes electrical transfer loaders.
Hey, Tom, can we ask just a really quick question? I know I don't want to interrupt you.
No, have at it.
I just want to know, what is the condition of can you describe, like, are we at the point, is it functional? What's the reason we're doing it now?
Yeah, we're doing it right now because it's at the end of its useful life. I don't have the specifics on the mechanical conditions of that truck. It's outside of fleet, so it stays at Plant 1. It doesn't leave Plant 1, but it's at the end of its useful life, and it's not in compliance with the regulation.
I think that it sounds like maybe I'd like to hear more about the condition of the current condition. So maybe instead of taking that vote, if you don't mind, Tom, maybe if we continue it and have staff come back and tell us what the condition of the truck is. And
No, I think we should vote no on it, and then they can go and research everything and then bring it back, because they haven't done their homework on this. She doesn't even know the rule. You got to do your homework and then bring it to council. We're not going to buy a $500,000 truck. I'm sorry.
I'm not saying us to buy anything. I'm just saying we continue it until
Okay.
So you still have questions, and I've just asked a question.
No, continue away. You know what, whatever, continue it away.
No, I'm not.
Why don't we buy 5 $500,000
Oh,
trucks?
Tom, it's just,
Tom.
being reasonable here, I don't think you're being unreasonable
No, not at all.
for saying, hey, let's do a little bit more work. But our staff do know the rules. They've shared what the rules are. But if you'd like us to
I'm more
do some more
curious.
work, then let's do a little bit more work. That's
So
okay.
I think you made a valid point about whether or not this is a good time. I think that question is really about, it's like saying that you're not going to replace your water heater until water heater prices come down.
Right.
Until you take your first cold shower.
Yes.
But I don't know where we are. So I'm asking if we can get a report back on the condition of the truck. I don't
I'm
think that's-
saying I'm going
I
to
like
go
that
home
idea.
to my wife and say, my truck is at the end of life, whatever that means, and I
Well,
need a new
is it-
truck.
I mean, if your truck was
It's at
totaled-
the end of the life. It's been 3 years. I need
No,
a
I'm
new
saying if your
truck.
truck was totaled,
This isn't that
you would need a new
tall.
truck, right? So that's all
The
I'm
truck
saying.
works. What? I don't know what end of life means.
End of
Like,
its useful life.
Does it have a
That-
father
that's
and
the
mother?
question.
And
That's where our policy starts.
Mr. Ellis, do you have something that you wanted to add?
Thanks, Mayor. If it's the desire of council, we would be happy to, if council continues that, and we can come back with some further information about the condition of the vehicle today. So we're happy to do that.
If acceptable, I'd like to make the motion to continue this item and follow up some
I'll second
follow-up
that.
questions.
I think it's acceptable.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. So the motion is to continue this to a future date to get some more information. It's been, on the status of the truck, it's been, an agenda's been, or a motion's been made and it's been seconded. Let's vote.
Councilmember Speak.
I'm basking in the glow here. I'm sorry, I forgot to push yes.
Still love you.
Okay, so
I love you too, buddy.
the alternate motion passed 5-0. Moving on to communications from the public. This portion of the agenda is intended for general public comment on items within the council's jurisdiction that are not listed elsewhere on the agenda. Please note the state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on these items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit for comments, and once called upon to speak, please state your name and city of residence for the record. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have 4 speaker cards for communication from the public.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody,
Anybody who wants, anybody.
any one of the 4?
Going twice, going 3 times. Sorry, sir. Next.
I thought he was coming up to speak, and I'm like, okay.
He
well.
said no. He said,
Yeah, I was like, all right. So, yeah, usually I see people kind of boogieing on down here. I can't believe you guys just, with a question about a bid like that. How many times has this come up? It's just, we over-spec RFPs. We overspec proposals. We can only use left-handed wing nuts, and they have to be CAD plated, not zinc plated. You know, and then you have this guy sitting up here going, well, we had the right load cell, and did she have the right load cell? What is the real deal? It's $40,000. What's the purpose of this bid? What was exactly the magic elixir that got this guy the job? What's the deal? I think as taxpayers, we're due an explanation about that. And instead, it's just like, no, we got a briefing on it. Let's do it. That's not right. I mean, if questions are raised in here and you have people that can answer questions and go on the record about it, why not have people do it? They're here. It seems to me the people that are taking the bid and deciding who wins and who loses in this bid, they should have some reasonable explanation why they're going to spend an extra 40-some thousand bucks. Why not? You know, I don't understand that. This has come up over and over and over again. What's the reason? What's the magical thing for Michelle or whatever the other group's name is? Why'd they get the bid? I mean, are we not due an explanation, or do I have to go do a bunch of record requests and pester Miss Edwards about stuff? I mean, is that what it takes? It shouldn't be. If it's brought up in here, it should be discussed in here in public. It should be fully vetted. The other thing I think it should be fully vetted in here that I saw this afternoon, and it was a little disturbing, was that somehow there's a pretty well-baked cake about City Park and basically changing the entire character of City Park and basically turning it into, you know, this quasi-civic center sort of a thing. And I understand the impetus for doing something like that, but there's no way that the decisions that were being discussed up in your offices this afternoon should have been first discussed in your offices this afternoon. They should have been discussed in this room. You could have extended this meeting. You could have had it last meeting. You could have had it next meeting. You know, someplace in this room. This should not be a thing that's like, well, hey, where'd those big buildings come from? Where'd this big project come from? You guys, they set you out with a menu like you're at a Chinese restaurant. You know, did you want A, B, or C? Where'd all those choices come from? It's ridiculous. You know, and this is a fundamental structural change to this park that people are going to want to know about before it's done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Evening. My name is Sam Albrecht. I'm with the YMCA, Corona Norco Family YMCA. I'm actually a Corona resident as well. I just wanted to come and give you guys a brief overview of our aquatics program that you guys partnered with us on starting in May of last year. Since May of last year, we've provided 1,414 swim lessons at the Auburndale Pool, over 1,000 of which have been Corona residents. So we're pretty proud of that. I wanted to share that with you guys. I also wanted to challenge each of you to come and join us at our Polar Bear Plunge event a week from Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Because we had snow today, we think it's a pretty apt time to have a polar bear plunge. So I'd like to challenge all of you to join us and hop into Auburndale Pool with us. Again, next Saturday, 8 a.m. I can leave these up here if you guys would like to see it.
Mr. Mayor, weren't you mentioning something about team building?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, what date was it again?
It's a week from Saturday.
Oh, gosh,
the
I'll
11th.
Go ahead and leave the flyers with
We'd be happy to open the pool especially for you if you'd like to come a different date as well. So please just let me know.
That's a all-for-one type of proposition.
I see. But regardless, I would like to say thank you guys for partnering with us. We've enjoyed the partnership over the last almost year. We're coming up on a year of that partnership and have really enjoyed our time over at Auburndale Pool. We feel like we're really making an impact in the community. So I'm very thankful that you guys have allowed us to do that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are great stats. Love that. Welcome.
Speedos is just beyond my comprehension. So, first of all, I'm Bobby Spiegel. I'm with the Corona Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to publicly thank our police chief for coming and speaking to our manufacturing group yesterday. We've got several different committees that we've formed, and the chief came and talked to a group of business people that are struggling with the break-ins and with the various thefts, vandalism, and he did a stellar job. So I just wanted to publicly thank him for coming there. Also, I wanted to just say that I attended I think it was a month ago, you put on a Blue Zone How did you describe it, Tom? You were the poster child for that.
The Blue Man Group?
Yeah, that group. So it was right here, and it was very inspiring. We were able to work out dates, and the gentleman that did the presentation here is going to actually present to our business community on March 16th at Good Morning Corona to get the business perspective. There's a lot of benefits in that. I know you are still studying it as a city, but we're just excited to kind of share a little bit more on that. And if anyone's interested, we've got newspapers in back, and it starts on page 1 and then continues on page 15, and there's a QR code on there. But you can go to mychamber.org and register, or call us at 951-CHAMBER, and we'd be glad to answer any questions. But thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And I believe there was one more? There we go.
I have 2 more speaker cards,
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Don Fuller. I'm a resident. I just want to say I agree with Mr. Richard's suggestion to hold off on buying this truck for a while at least. And so I thank you for that. And if you want a couple of experts to look at the vehicles, I have been accepted in over 100 court cases as an automotive expert to testify under oath. And Mr. Morgan back there teaches automotive, and he's a well-known automotive expert himself. So the two of us will go look at the vehicle if you want us to, and we'll render our opinion on that. So I'm all in favor of what you had to say, Mr. Richards. And I'm volunteering Mr. Morgan, whether he likes it or not, and me to put us at your services. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And is there another card?
Mayor, it looks like they decided not to speak.
Okay. Let's see. Then moving on to public hearings. Item number 12 is the General Plan Amendment 2022-001 to change the general plan land use designation of 2 parcels totaling 4.95 acres located at 220 and 224 North Sherman Avenue from general industrial to light industrial. Does any council member want a staff report on this item? Okay. Ms. Coletta, you're up.
Great, thank you. So what this item is this evening, it's really a general plan correction. We have a piece of property that's currently zoned M1, but it does have an underlying general plan designation of general industry. The party that owns the property actually owns 4 adjoining parcels, and the desire is to consolidate those parcels into one. And in order to do that, we have to have a consistency with all the land uses. So the 2 parcels to the south are light industry in the M1 zone, and the 2 parcels that are being changed this evening are to the north, and they're both zoned M1. With this change, it would actually make all of those parcels zoned, general plan light industry, so they can proceed with their development. So it's really just a general plan correction. Thank you.
All right, the public hearing is now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, we did not receive correspondence.
Ms. Edwards, did we receive any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we did. We have 1 speaker card for this item.
Okay, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Luis Gomez. I'm with 9th Street Partners, and we're here tonight on behalf of IPT Corona Commerce Centers, who's the property owner of the item that was heard tonight. And we simply agree. It is a correction of the general plan. We want to consolidate the parcels. We just think it's a simple approval request that we're making here. I just want to let you know that we're here to answer any questions. And I also want to thank staff. They've done a great job for us throughout the entire process, and I really appreciate their help in getting us to this point.
Okay. Looks like the public hearing is now closed. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues? Nope. Okay. Do we have a motion then?
Make the motion.
I'll second. Just checking. Did you press a button?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, please vote. Okay, looks like that item passes 5-0. All right, item number 13, general plan amendment 2022-0003 to change the general plan land use designation of 3 parcels totaling 4.92 acres located at 212 and 216 North Smith Avenue from light industrial to general industrial. I think that's just the opposite, right? Yeah. Okay, does any council member want a staff report on this item?
No.
Okay. The public hearing is now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding this item?
Mayor, we did not receive correspondence.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed, and there's no questions or comments from my colleagues?
Mayor, sorry, we do have 3 speaker cards for this item. We didn't receive correspondence, but we have 3 speaker cards.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Edwards, I skipped that part. That's my fault. So we do have 3 speaker cards. Please come on up.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alex. I'm a very proud member of the Laborers International Union of North America, or as you see it all over our clothes, it says LIUNA. I'm here speaking in support of not just the project, but also of the developer. They're committed to using the highest grade of responsibly trained and state-accredited facilities of laborers, union labor. We've seen a lot of things change in the past couple years after the pandemic. Number one, the ability to be able to go out and find new types of jobs has been incredibly rare. But for all the trade unions, we've opened our doors. When everybody shut down, we brought more and more people in looking for new avenues to pay the bills and take care of their families. On top of that, our existing members, longtime existing members, have been able to jump off of the out of work list quicker and quicker every time these projects get passed. And lastly, a lot of the newer members that have been here have very, very valuable hours on the job training with skilled journeymen. That's second to none. So this developer has committed to using the safest, most responsible union labor on these jobs, which is an absolutely fantastic thing for any area. So I hope that we can find a way to get this moving and we can get to work as soon as possible and build something very nice and very safe for this city. And I just want to say one last thing, just off topic, I apologize, but the 2 people that were recognized at the beginning for performing the life-saving CPR is an absolutely incredible thing, and I just wanted to make note of it one more time because I thought that's the first time I've ever seen people recognized like that, and I think that's absolutely amazing, so I just wanted to recognize it one more time. Thank you guys for your time, and please have a good night.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, mayors, council, and staff. My name is Jose Rodillo. I am a member of LIUNA, and I approve this project moving forward. It was a project just like this one 19 years ago that gave me a second chance in life. I matured, and now I'm a productive member of society. LIUNA has enabled me to obtain the skills to succeed in today's economy, creating a pathway into society, bridging the gap between poverty and middle class. Yet I am certain that this project will present the same opportunity to someone else that it gave me. This project will give jobs to the community, and it will provide the work that our skilled and trained workforce needs. It will give the apprentices the hours that they need to become journeymen. I 100% approve of this project moving forward. I implore you also to support this project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor, Councilman, good afternoon. My name is Juan Munoz. I'm a representative with the Carpenters Union. In the last 10 years, industrial, there's been a big boom in it. It's kept many workers, many members working. Between Riverside County and San Bernardino County, we have roughly about 1,000 carpenters that do tilt-ups, projects like these industrial projects. They've provided living wage, benefits, and a pension. One of these days, everybody's going to retire, and I'm close. I got a lot of white here showing, so I have a pension I can count on. I don't have to worry about Social Security or whether or not it's going to be there. I'll be provided for. And this types of jobs, this provides that opportunity for them when they get closer to retirement. I ask that you move this project forward and you accept it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more cards, Ms. Edwards?
Mayor, we do not have any more
Okay.
cards.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none? Tom? Okay. Do we have a motion?
Yes. Move to approve. Move to approve.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
I guess we're all fighting.
Nobody wants to push the buttons anymore.
No, listen, the
All the buttons were pushed.
buttons get pushed and it still comes up as available, so.
Yeah, there's a glitch with the
We spend an awful lot of time talking about buttons.
guy insists.
Yeah, buttons. You got buttons.
Okay. In spite of my colleagues not using the buttons, that motion passes.
Oh, so many buttons. You overuse the buttons.
All right. All right, agenda items 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 will be taken into consideration together. The public hearings will be open and closed together. Ms. Edwards, do I need to read every single one?
Yes, Mayor, because you're introducing the item.
Awesome. I was hoping that was the case. Thank you.
Did you push the button?
All right, item number 14. The General Plan Amendment 2022-0002 to amend the land use on various properties to allow certain residential land uses consistent with the General Plan housing element sites inventory and commensurate text changes to certain land use designations in the General Plan. Item number 15, Zone Text Amendment 2023-0001 to Title 17 of the Corona Municipal Code to add Chapter 17.31 to establish regulations for affordable housing overlay zone. Item number 16, Community Facilities Plan Amendment 2022-0002 to amend 2.0 acres located at 1220 West Ontario Avenue and 5.40 acres located at 2880 California Avenue from low-density residential to medium-density residential. Item number 17, change of zone 2022-0003 to change the zoning on various properties to allow certain residential land uses consistent with the general plan housing element sites inventory. Number 18, specific plan amendment 2022-0003 to amend various specific plans to change the land use on certain properties to allow certain residential land uses with commensurate text changes. Item number 19, resolution approving the high-density residential mixed-use objective development standards and design guidelines in Western Riverside Council of Governments objective design standards, architectural style standards in support of the housing element rezoning program. Does any council member want a staff report on these items?
Sorry, I think you cut out in the last one.
Yep, nope. We already did story time with the mayor, so. And no staff reports?
I have comments, but no staff report.
Yeah, same here.
Okay. Okay, well, the public hearings are now open. Ms. Edwards, has the city clerk's office received correspondence regarding these items?
Mayor, yes, we received correspondence regarding agenda item number 17, and we also received, we have 4 speaker cards. We also have a resident that is not feeling well and provided her comments, and she asked me to read them. So if you're okay with that, I can do that.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read those comments, and then we'll take the cards from the public.
Okay. Corona City Council, my name is Gloria Mendoza Salgado. I have been a resident of Corona for 80 plus years. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of my thoughts and concerns. As a child growing up in Corona, it was a very much different place than it is now. Through the years, many changes have taken place for the Mexican American community. I am proud to say that I have personally witnessed the growth and advancement in social, economic, government, education, and employment in regards to the Mexican American people and culture. Yes, we have advanced from dark dismissal past that saw the Mexican community as a blight into society. My family and I were personally confronted with racial prejudice and discrimination because we were of Mexican descent. We face these issues in housing, healthcare, education, employment, and recreation. It was a common practice throughout Corona that we were forced to sit in certain sections of the theaters, to swim in public pools only one day out of the week, and could only visit public parks at designated times, and had to attend segregated schools that were inferior to the Anglo schools. We were forced into the lowest paying and most dangerous jobs. My family was denied meals in public restaurants and had to find housing in most of the rundown sections of Corona. Now, years later, these former prejudices have almost been erased and are non-existent. Our work ethic, successes, and contributions to the city have been recognized and appreciated, valued, admired, and respected in all areas. My presence here today is to talk about all the zoning decisions that are being made to be equally and fairly, whether it's residential or commercial. Every property owner should have the right to sell their properties at fair market value. Urban renewal is important, but not at the expense of hardworking, tax-paying residents who are the backbone of the city.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. And we'll now go to the speaker cards. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Richard Dominguez, and I represent Living Water Church on the corner of at 1065 Railroad, corner of Lincoln and Railroad, 2 buildings and a lot there. We were notified this past year that the City Planning Commission wanted to change our zoning. We are currently a general commercial zone, and they want to make it a mixed-use commercial residential. But our desire is to remain as a general. We never ever had any plans of building any kind of housing on our property. If we did any kind of changes, it could be possibly a new church or other commercial type buildings, but we do not want to be classified as a mixed zone, general C3 AHO. So at the meeting in January with the Planning Commission, they were addressing all these parcels. There was a group here, a large contingent from a neighborhood, and that night the commission honored their request not to be changed to a affordable housing zone. So that's what I'm here tonight. I did write a letter to the Planning Commission, Ms. Joanne, and she responded to me tonight that they would be addressing it. At that meeting last month, or in January, they said, well, it'd be an opportunity for the church to profit with housing, but we have no desire for that. So we ask that you would take that into consideration, that we would stay as our proposed general commercial zoning as we are right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you said there were additional speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, I have 2 speaker cards for agenda item 14.
Don't be shy. Come on down. Okay. The public hearings are now closed. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues? Mr. Speaker?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to, Mr. Ellis, if it's okay to ask Ms. Coletta to address those two comments. I think there's some misconception that by doing this, that we're forcing folks to make a change to their property, or we're taking something from them. Can we just clarify that to make sure that folks that are concerned about that, are a little less concerned?
Yes, it can. And just to reference the last speaker, so this is the property located at the corner of Lincoln and Railroad Street. It is a small little church. We did do prior outreach with letters during the housing element update to let them know we identified them as a site. I don't know if there was a change in ownership, but we did hear from them the first time at the Planning Commission. So they are requesting that they be removed from this. The C3 zone would stay on the property. We did explain that the affordable housing overlay is just in addition to, should they ever decide to exercise it. But the underlying zoning is still in force, so it doesn't change anything. The C3 zone is there. The overlay only goes into effect if they actually want to exercise housing. They did understand that, but their desire was still to be removed, and that is the property that you see here tonight. And I would like to make note on another piece of property I said I would explain as well. I did get a letter, as the council received in their packet this evening. We did hear from the property owner on East 6th Street. They are sites 56 and 57. They are two small parcels. This is not an overlay. It was actually a change from general commercial to multifamily. However, they would prefer to stay general commercial. This is the first time I've heard from them. So their request is to be removed. I do not see a problem doing that. We will just come back and look at making up some shortfall of sites. The Planning Commission at the meeting did remove 29 sites in the housing rezoning program, so it is creating a shortfall for us. So I will need to look at future sites and bring it back to the commission and the council to shore up that shortfall in the future, and that will be happening by the end of this year.
Thank you, Ms. Coletta. And will that still allow us to send in our housing element to HCD?
Absolutely. So because I didn't have to do a presentation, the city did receive a state-approved housing element on October 12th, 2022. So that was good news for us. So we are state compliant, and we do have until October of 2024 to get the entire rezoning program done. So what you have tonight is what I'm calling phase one. We will go back and do it at a micro-analysis now to kind of finish up those sites that were removed, but we are getting the bulk of it achieved this evening if it is approved. So it has been a long process. We've been working on this for almost a year on just the rezoning program.
Yeah, I know you guys have worked really hard, and I know it's been a tough swing, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for really stepping up and listening to folks. It was nice to see that interaction. I watched that online. I just wanted to, somebody asked me today about, why is it important to have the housing element certified, and why is it important to get HCD's approval? And I had, two words to mention to them, which was builder's remedy. So could you explain what that is and how we avoided it by having our element accepted?
Yes, and this is a group that has gotten together, and they are massively working themselves through other cities, and I believe they're actually working in cities that have they're more difficult to get residential approvals. So if you do not have a state-compliant housing element, they basically render your housing element and your general plan incomplete. It's no longer valid. So it gives them the right to come in and start exercising by right development for housing, and basically they're saying the city cannot deny that application. So you do have several cities right now that are battling that, and they are actually, moving into lawsuits. I am thankful that Corona was not part of that during the year that we were trying to get certified, but there are many avenues out there that these housing builders are using to get projects through in cities that they've had a difficult time in getting development through.
And just in total, I think I read something just this week that almost 7,000 units were being proposed using that remedy. So I'm very happy that we pushed forward and got us approved. I agree with Ms. Coletta's exceptions if there's people that don't want to be part, and there's ways that we still have some time to go find other places. I have no problem with, with excluding them, as long as I want to make sure they understand actually, there was another question. So if this goes forward and for the rest of these parcels, and someone wanted to do something on their property, they want to build an outbuilding or they wanted to do something else, would they be allowed to, that the existing zoning was done when they did the work, or would it be the new zone?
So the affordable housing overlay allows them to continue to do what they're doing now. But if you are a rezone that is changing your designation, then you are grandfathered under your current use. But I could tell you what we've done on some of these residential properties. If they were low density and we took them to medium density, it didn't eliminate the residential component. It just allowed them the opportunity to add more units to their property because we looked at the size and maybe they were ideal for a duplex. So they were still kind of lateral in a sense. It just would give them a little bit more, it was elevated more in terms of density.
So that's a little different, though, for this parcel number 56 and 57, is that they're commercial, and if they
Yes.
had to get there was some kind of commercial use, they would be prevented if they were zoned as multifamily.
That's correct. Or any building expansion to a commercial building.
Great, yeah. So I think those exceptions are appropriate, and if it prevents someone that's actually operating a business on those parcels now to doing anything further in their commercial side, I don't want to impact that, so I'm good with that.
Thank you. Mr. Steiner? Nothing. Jackie? Tom, you got something to say?
I do. First, I'd like to thank the city clerk for reading Gloria Mendoza Salgado's comment. Oh, come on up, or can she come up?
Yeah, absolutely.
You take your time.
I just wanted to say that, as I noted in my letter, we have lived there all our lives. We went through all this trauma and we thought we had gotten ahead. And now our property will be downgraded to just having housing on it, from commercial to housing. Give us the opportunity to sell at commercial rates. You gave that commercial rate so anybody could get in there before, and we only have one commercial building there. Now, there's a few others that they weren't picked at all. Why? There are only maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of us right around that corner, and they've all have all their consents for me to talk for them. None of them want to sell at just a residential rating. They will sell if you want us to, but give us the opportunity to make some money too. We've had that property for a long time. Why should we be cast aside? Can you answer that for me, please?
So, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to ask the
I
city manager.
called you. I called her before.
Go ahead.
And she had somebody speak to me. And he told me, because I have a husband that's sick and I have to go home before the end of the council meeting that they had. And so I called 2 days later, and he said it had passed. And so I said, what can I do? He said, nothing. It goes before the city council and pass. Write us a letter. And I said, no, I'll write it to the city council. That's why the letter's here. Because I like to have the opportunity to speak for these people and myself. I've worked hard on my life. And I'm not asking for anything that no one else would ask for.
Ms. Coletta is going to answer your question.
Sure.
If we can go ahead and put the PowerPoint back up, I will identify, I believe I have the right property. So she is referencing the properties on Grand Boulevard there that are just south off of Victoria, where you see the 91 went through the circle, and you have those remnant parcels there.
And also the one on the one right around the circle. She's also there. I think it's 44. We didn't get that copy of that, but she's also one of the ones that called me.
Okay, so these properties all contain existing housing. When the city went in and did the downtown revitalization specific plan back in 1998, they did rezone some properties, and they took those residential properties and changed them to gateway business, and that never came to fruition. What exists there today are housing, except for 2 commercial buildings that were developed, one being the Calvert office, the other being a professional office there off Grand. So the intent here was to basically preserve the housing stock and taking it back to residential and making it multifamily. So what Gloria is requesting this evening is that they keep the property a gateway business. But it is, all of those streets contain housing on them, except for the 2 parcels in the front.
Which numbers again?
What is your address?
I mean, which number is on the form here? Is it 34 through 39 or 38?
Yes, it's the
39?
one south of Grand.
Okay, great. Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm a little lost on how to move forward with this one.
I think Tom had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Ms. Button doesn't want to work. Thanks, Ms. Salgado. I think Joanne answered your question. Do you feel like you've been answered, or?
Well, I just wanted to take that into consideration for us. Let us sell. We will sell. There's no problem again that we'll do that. Won't do that. Most of them will sell.
Understood.
But why would you want us to sell a lesser price than anybody else? And is the other commercial building that's there, will it stay commercial like that, or will it also be rezoned for multiple housing?
I'm going to take a shot at this.
Hang on one second. Ms. Coletta, those parcels listed on the screen, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39, do they have an overlay that makes them residential? And they are currently commercial, correct?
Yeah, they're non-conforming, so it's gateway business, so all the residential properties there are non-conforming use under the existing zoning.
But they're
So-
still allowed to be there.
Yes.
Yes, but does the overlay allow them to remain commercial?
This one does not have an overlay. This one is actually a zone change, so we would be changing it from the gateway business back to residential, and we went with multifamily residential.
Okay, so there isn't an overlay on this. This is a
No.
change of designation. Okay.
Exactly.
Now I understand.
But I think what Ms. Salgado needs to know is that no one's coming to tear down your houses. They can stay there until all 7 owners sell, and then if a developer wants to come in.
You
this
realize
is
that.
Years down the line, then they can build the multifamily housing. So your house is
But the
safe
state
for
of
now.
California, when they first came out with this survey that they were having, that by a certain year they had to have so many housing for the people of California, or for the Corona. And we got that letter, and we said, oh, okay, fine. And we all said, if they're going to build, And we all knew that we were commercial. And we held on to this property all the time. My house is, if you don't know, is a historical house. Murrieta, the Mexican vandal that was in there, he used to live there. That's where he had his men. It's not a historical house, but it should be. Go look at it and see what year it was born. But it's not considered a historical house.
If I'm now understanding it correctly, I think your concern is that you want it to stay in the designation that it is.
Exactly.
So that way, if you do decide to sell,
We
you
will
can sell it as a commercial
We will
property.
sell. We are all saying, yes, you do need this improvement in Corona. We know that, and we will sell. But let us sell at the rate it is now. Why are you going to lower it?
I think Ms. Salgado's saying that her assumption is that if we rezone it as multifamily, it will be worth less than if it's
Exactly.
zoned as commercial.
And then can it be
something we
taken as eminent domain also?
That's an assumption.
That's the
Wouldn't
assumption.
it probably be worth more as a multifamily?
Yes, and I think I think if this, being next to the Metrolink, or the park and ride, it being multifamily, most likely it's going to be worth more than commercial.
Exactly.
So that's the idea is to zone it
I'm an
to
accountant.
multifamily.
And I'm not really stupid.
No,
not
I
at all.
understand, but what Councilmember Speak is explaining is that if we change the designation to a multifamily designation, the property could
Value goes
potentially
down.
be worth more
Go up.
than if it was just a commercial property.
I don't think so.
Okay. Which item on the agenda is the one that covers
17, I think.
17? Okay. Then I'm going to make an alternate motion on item 17, if that's the one that covers her property. Just
Is
want to
it
make
Mrs.
sure.
Coletti? Ms. Coletti, is that the item, 17? Yes.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that
Well, I
we,
think there's another speaker.
Mayor, we do have the two speakers from earlier. They didn't speak, but
oh,
they
that's correct, I'm
do want to
sorry.
speak.
Is that on item 17, though?
No, they're speaking on item 14.
Okay, so,
But they're all together. You said you were going to take them all together.
oh, that's right. Well, that's why I'm making an alternate motion.
I mean, it might be good just to hear what folks have to say.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we listen to the two speaker cards that are now wanting to speak?
Sure.
And then we'll go from there.
Thank you. I'll be back.
And Mr. Mayor, if you make a change on the change of zone ones, which you're referencing on Grand, we also want to make an adjustment to the general plan amendment because that will change it from a commercial designation from a high density. So if you want to keep it the same, we want to make sure the general plan amendment goes along with the change of zone. So when you get ready to read your motion, I'll make sure.
All I want.
It seems like there's a kind of a simple issue, or maybe I'm misunderstanding what's going on. Maybe you could just do the housing overlay on her property, so you'd keep the zone, and then add affordable housing overlay onto it. You know, she can kind of have her cake and eat it too. She can stay commercial and have a housing overlay on it, where she'd have a choice between the two of them.
I think the affordable part makes it a little more harder to do.
Do you want to cheese her off, or do you want to try to get something? We can get something, and we can achieve some of our goals, and maybe come up with a reasonable compromise. You know, it seems like that would be a reasonable way to pursue it, instead of doing the zone change, which the owner of the land really doesn't sound amenable to your persuasion that her household or that her land will be worth more. You know, that's her prerogative, and just like the church, they don't want the zone change. You know, maybe you shouldn't force it on her, but she might be amenable to having an overlay where she could keep the zoning and have the option for housing if that was her choice, if that was their choice. It just seems like a way to maybe bridge some kind of a deal between the two, and maybe get some of what we want, some of what we need, and give her the option to do what she needs to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Come on up. Welcome.
My name is Paul Angulo. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here to oppose the rezoning of lots 32, 14, and 15. I'm not sure if the motion that, if this is the correct time to speak on this, but she's asked me to come up and speak on it. Anyways, my name is Paul Angulo, and I am the manager at Bear Complete Car Care located at 927 West 6th Street. Bear Alignment has been serving the Corona area for over 60 years. Our business was built back when parking was allowed on 6th Street. That has been long taken away from us. We currently use the lot that is being up for rezoning as an overflow parking. So does Enterprise Rent-A-Car and many other businesses. And to lose that lot would be detrimental to our business, Some of our customers include Corona PD. We align all the Corona PDs there. The City Yard, Calvary Ambulance, First Street School Buses, Hamburg Ford sublets alignments to us, so does Caltrans and Fritz Ford, along with Chandler Aggregates, and the list goes on and on and on. I brought some pictures to show. So the pictures that are going to be on the screen here in a moment show currently the street that actually cuts the parking lot in half, which is called Sierra Vista. The picture that you're currently seeing is daytime use of the parking lot. Here we're seeing a mixture of Bear Alignments vehicles and Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We use it as an overflow, and we bring the cars back to our shop for safekeeping during the night.
And who owns this parcel?
So this is the city-owned parcels over off of 6th Street and Buena Vista.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Those are our parcels that we are putting an affordable housing overlay on.
Right, thank you.
So this is an image of the street Sierra Vista from Lincoln all the way to the Civic Center. This is at night after the residents have gotten home, and you can see that the cars line both sides of that street. Also, the parking lot doubles up as an overflow for Foothill Elementary. And here you could see the school's parking lot. They're at a premium for parking as well. During the daytime, they utilize the parking as well. This is Foothill use of the parking lot during the day. On Sierra Vista, this is an image of an apartment complex alleyway. The spot that you see empty had just vacated as I was there to take that picture, but there is no parking there at all. So the people are so desperate that they're parking in the alleyway behind Cardenas Market. Now, why is this happening? Why are there? I brought a word with me today that I didn't have in January. Multi-generational homes. The definition of that stands for, and I'll read the definition, a multi-generational home is a household made up of 3 or more generations living together under one roof. Typically, that's 2 or 3 related adult generations as well as their children. So where you would normally have 2 or 3 vehicles, now you'll have 6 or 7. That's why we're seeing so many vehicles in this area. And to add more affordable housing in that area, I just don't see how that would work. Also, Sierra Vista is lined with affordable housing on both sides of the street leading up to that parking lot. So to just put more there, I feel like the residents would be desperate. They would look for parking up towards Lincoln where our businesses are. And that's why I'm opposing this rezoning of this lot, and I thank you for speaking today. I feel that it's less expensive to allow this public parking lot to remain than to have to buy homes and business to have it back later. Thank you.
Thank you.
For allowing me to speak today. My name is Richard Ashley. I own the property at 935 and 937 West 6th Street. Paul that spoke previously is a neighbor. We both have the same problem. Over the years, our parking has been stripped away by improvements on the 6th Street where they can put in another lane, and then we lost our street parking. And then the handicap thing came along, and we lost our 1/3 of our space in the front of the building. So all we have basically is, instead of, we had 12 parking spaces, we now, in the front, we only have 2, plus the handicap space. It's created a very heavy burden on my tenants. In fact, one of them is giving up part of their lease space simply because there's no parking. We can't stop the people from parking there. I tried putting a fence around. I did everything. They just keep coming in, and I put up the no tollway signs. They disappear. There's just no parking. And as times get harder for both the tenants behind us, the streets behind us, as was shown previously, there's no parking. There's no parking anywhere. Even your own officers could drive by there, and I challenge them to find a fire hydrant. You can't find one. You know why? Because there's cars parked in front of them. You know, it's just become unbearable and impossible to create more high-density units, because they'll even be more high-density than you propose. Their kids grow up and things like that, then they get cars, and where are they going to park? There's no place to park, okay? And so they invade other properties to try to park. I don't understand how, my understanding is it's just poor planning. Corona doesn't have to, I've owned that building since 1994 or 5, I can't remember what. And just every year becomes more impossible for those people to make a living. Every tenant in my building, they all worked a minimum of 10 hours a day, 6 days and 7 days a week. You know, and it's very difficult for our little market. There's a market there, a hair salon, a tax service, insurance service, and they just can't hardly make it. You know, and they can't work any more hours a day. You know, I've worked all my life. I'm 81 years old, and I see these people struggling like this, these tenants of mine, and it's not fair. It's not reasonable, and it's not good business. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Can I finish my comments? Or
In just
start
one
my
second.
comments?
I'm going to close the public hearing, and then there'll be time for comments and questions.
Okay.
Okay. The public hearings are now closed, and do I have any questions or comments?
I have comments.
Go ahead.
The reason that the city's going through this process of overlay zones is because the state of California has become dysfunctional. And it's become dysfunctional because of legislators and senators that propose obnoxious housing laws. These housing laws are a one-size-fit-all. They come from cities such as San Francisco and Sacramento, where they've already ruined their cities, so now they've decided to ruin our cities. These overlay zones, as I have attended planning commission meetings, and even the people here in this meeting, have instilled fear in people. They've instilled fear in citizens. They've instilled fear in people that have fought hard to buy their houses and now are having these overlay zones that threaten them. Because you can have an overlay zone put on your house and your neighbor's house, and your neighbor might want to knock down his house, and now next thing you know, you're going to have higher density residential being built next to your house that you fought to buy and pay for. These streets where these overlay zones are small streets. These are streets that were designed for horses and carriages and Model A's at best, not for today's vehicles. And if you drive down some of these streets, sometimes you have to pull over so someone else can pass you. And now our city, in an effort to keep the state of California happy, wants to put problems on its citizens and instill these overlay zones. And it's not right, and the fear's not right. And to waste Ms. Coletta's time on this is not right. So I will remind one and all of the 7 Ps. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. I think we can all agree on that. We're not prior proper planning, we're reckless planning. We're planning as the Bear Automotive guy, sorry, I forgot your name. He's right. These streets are parked every night. These streets are people putting in an 8-10 hour day of work and then coming home thinking, well, I guess I'll spend 20, 30 minutes trying to find a place to park. And we want to put overlay zones on them. These aren't the right streets to put overlay zones on them. And the city's strategy, by the way, and I'll say it publicly, we're going to put these overlay zones on them and hope to hell that nobody builds higher density residential. That is literally the hope of these overlay zones. And I'll say it, And I hope to hell that no one ever builds this obnoxious housing. But it's not fair to do that to these people. It's just not fair. It's not fair to burden and pressure the citizens of Corona to keep the state of California happy. The state of California needs to figure out other ways to solve their housing than to put the fear in our citizens. It's our job, and it's the job of every council in this state to tell the state no, to fight back, not just say, hey, let's go find a consultant, Stan Tech, I'm sure that dude's around here somewhere, give him $400,000 to come up with the dream of overlay zones. It's our job to say no to the state. No. Every turn, every year, last year, the year before, the state, and probably this year, the state is coming out with obnoxious housing buildings requirements. They define an ADU now as the same size of the house that's in front of it. They've just lost it. If anybody studies history, they will know that this vote tonight will be deemed one of the most reckless votes if you vote yes, and it will be the most championed votes if you vote no, period. I don't want to be the guy that was known for these obnoxious overlay zones, and I don't want to be the guy that was known for caving into the state of California. I will stand with my citizens, and I will vote no on this. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Okay. So, although we opened and closed these all together, we have to vote on them individually because they have to be read. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor. The items that have an ordinance have to be read. If they do not have an ordinance, they do not need to be read.
Okay. And
Mr. Mayor,
they all have, except
ordinance-
14 and 19 don't have to be read. Is that correct? Okay. Do you have a question?
I have comments.
Okay, please.
Yeah. I mean, Tom, I appreciate and love the spirit. I wonder, like, what's the answer? It's, I understand and I like your passion. It's inspiring. But if it puts Corona in a corner where then we can be subject to even worse, for instance, what was just shared about the fact that, things can happen or these developers can come in if we're non-compliant and then it's just worse can occur. Like, I'm trying to find where your stance leaves us. Because if it's Corona against Sacramento, as small and tough and mighty as David is, where does that leave us against Goliath?
Well, it's always the hypotheticals. It's always what if, but the cities throughout the state just don't even try to fight back anymore. That's why I'm on the League of Cities on their cases, because they advocate not fighting back anymore. It's roll over and die. That's how it works in the state of California now. I promise you, if 200 city councils sent a message to Sacramento saying, no, we're not doing overlay zones, no, we're not doing obnoxious housing, no, we're not gonna build recklessly, they would take notice. But that's not how it works here. We have a government that just wants to, we have a state government that wants to put a gun to a city's head and say, either you make your citizens suffer, or we will fine you to death, or we will bring obnoxious developers in. But the answer is not us saying yes to stupidity.
But I don't think the answer is putting us against a corner where we're all, I mean, you're saying let's build a movement, but the thin veiled threat here is, hey, colleagues, if you vote against this, or if you vote for this, then you've left your residents out, high and dry. Where I think, A, that's really messed up. Don't do that. Because it's not what our vote actually means. But two, I think we're on this dais to make sometimes very difficult decisions, but they must be prudent and in the interest of us as a city. And I don't want to put or compromise our residents and our city's position, and for a thing that like we're losing. And if what you want is a movement, then build the movement, but don't say, hey, I'm making this the vote tonight, and if you guys don't vote the way I think you should vote, then you're not standing with the residents. That's not fair.
It is fair. I'm speaking my mind, and that's how I believe, and that's how I feel.
well,
And
Tom,
if-
let
if
me-
you feel otherwise, that's fine.
Oh, let
But-
me-
but
let me
make
bring-
that publicly known. Hang on, Wes.
Okay.
You have multi-generational families that are already squeezed into tight places.
Agreed.
Right? And I'm a fan of multi-generational. I'm a fan of when grandma takes an interest in their grandson or granddaughter and helps raise them. But it is not fair to put these overlay zones on these properties. There are multi-generational people that are there now. If you go drive these streets, these people don't need this. This is not right for them. It's
So
just
where do you put them?
well, here you go. So housing community development, we went through this 2 years ago with Ms. Coletta. The question was, how many fines have they given out? 0. They hadn't given out any fines. They got into it with Huntington Beach, and they're still into it with Huntington Beach. But there are cities out there that are suing over these RENA numbers. There are cities out there that are suing over SB 9.
Are there cities winning when they're suing?
They're in the courts.
They're spending millions of dollars.
They're spending millions of
Is it-
dollars.
is
But
it
those cities have
prudent
balls. They're doing it. They're not they're
Pride
not
comes
rolling
before
over.
the fall. I didn't run to be on this council to take to put my pride first. That's not the point here. We have to make good decisions for our city and for our residents with sometimes poor options. So I'm asking you, what is the prudent way here, putting your pride aside?
Sure. Then I'll tell you the prudent way. Get the first fine. Let the state fine us first. Let them step up to the plate. Let them take the public appearance of fining the city for a council protecting its citizens. Let them be the ones that come after us, not just roll over and comply. We haven't fought anything. We've just gotten counsel from a planning department who wants to push this through so it goes away. We haven't put up the fight that this deserves. If just to play this out, 20 years from now when we're all gone, right? And all this has been forgotten and people start selling their houses to developers and developers start knocking down houses and building medium-density residential, high-density residential, there's no parking. And we have a state that says we don't need to care about parking anymore. This particular vote can hurt and harm in the future. Hurt and harm the citizens that live on these streets. And I get that I'm passionate, I get that I'm spirit, I get that I've thoroughly offended you tonight, and I apologize if I
Not
have.
offended. You're building
it
building
says-
this argument that isn't, in my eyes, and making it an unfair proposition for your colleagues that need to make this vote. This is a difficult decision, yes, but it's not one where if I vote where I vote, it means I'm either with the residents or not with the residents. I'm making a vote on on difficult grounds and with not great options. But wherever I land, it's not because I dislike the residents. That's unfair to paint it that way. Are you a resident? Of course, I was born and raised here, in the circle. Born and raised on 10th Street.
Okay.
So my question is, how do we get a good resolution to this? What does good look like? Give me a good answer. Give me a
Sure.
good alternative.
Vote no. Let the state take the ball in their court. Let them be the ones to pass down the fine.
Hey, Tom or Mayor?
Yep.
So we're talking about a specific area right now, though, that has horrible parking right now. So is there an opportunity to not do the overlay on areas in this city that are already horrible areas to try to park? Can we move this overlay and find something where it's not hard to park?
I'm going to tell you, this has been a rather difficult process. There is a criteria that HCD will only accept properties if it has a certain qualification. I have gone through all of these parcels in the city of Corona, and I'm going to be quite honest with you. I would need help identifying where you want these parcels to be at this point. I mean, it has been a task. It's been a difficult task. So I've hit the parcels that I've known that have the minimal lot coverage that is going to meet the criteria of HCD. And I do understand the passion and I do understand the emotion, but it's just that you just can't slap this overlay zone on anything. There is a method to it, and that is the method staff has been doing. The housing element, this was probably the most difficult part, other than dealing with furthering fair housing, which was very difficult this round. It was finding sites. So I'm here to tell you that I have stretched this so far, and to now know that I have to go back and stretch some more, it's cautionary for me. So I've done everything that I can, and this is where we are at. As difficult as it is, this is where we are at.
So then where we are is there is the properties, the literal overlay zones cannot be put on, let's say hypothetically, a street in, south of Ontario because it does not meet the criteria of the lot size. And is it like nearness to public transit and X, Y, and Z? What are their criteria?
So they want to know what the viability is within this 8-year period that we would even think that somebody would be interested in developing this property. So if you have an underutilized commercial center that may be struggling to get tenants, which we do have a few, there's an opportunity there to redevelop. I'm not going to go put an affordable housing overlay on the crossings. We know realistically that the crossings is not going to stop their operation in 8 years and decide that all of a sudden they want to do housing. But you do have properties that have been struggling with vacancies and the lack of businesses, and the way that the development has been moving, it's been to be reutilizing these underutilized commercial properties. So they have they have less than 50% lot coverage, and they have a lot of pavement, so it makes the site desirable. So those are the constraints that we're working with. The properties you have along Ontario are thriving. All of those commercial centers are thriving. And we can't go in and start slapping overlays on single-family homes because, realistically, these homes are not going to go away in 8 years. So there is a method to why these sites are chosen.
So it won't pass muster if you say you put the overlay zone on other properties where the parking is not as restricted. It'll get kicked. The plan will get kicked right back to us and say it's non-compliant. And where's the time frame? Where are we at right now? Is there any other time to sit down and, I know you said you've gone through the process and we've stretched it and we've stretched it as far as possible. Where are we on that time? Is there a moment there where maybe this can be workshopped and you can visually see the map of all the places? I know this sounds tedious. Of all the places that would possibly be considered okay to put an overlay zone, and then almost like process of eliminations, the ones that wouldn't qualify. So then you end up with, these are the places where we can.
That's where you're at tonight. That is exactly where you are at tonight. And knowing that we already removed 29 sites at the Planning Commission, and I'm having to go back and now comb through to make up that loss. So it's an ongoing effort. Going back to square one, I don't think you're going to see anything different.
So in your professional experience, there are no other options.
Unless you are aware of some sites that I have not taken into consideration. I've already started looking at other sites that I think can qualify just based on the recent trend we've seen in the last couple of years. But that is going to be difficult as well. Just trying to find the shortfall of sites, which right now is about a loss of 300 units, it's difficult.
And have we seen what the fines look like from the state of California to a city that's non-compliant?
No, we haven't, but it's more than just the fines. It's invalidating the entire general plan for the city. So if your goal is to stop housing, you're not only going to stop housing, but you're going to stop all kinds of development. You're going to stop commerce. You're going to stop commercial. You're going to stop industrial. We've basically invalidated our general plan, which is the blueprint for this city, in terms of the services we want to provide. It's not just about housing. It's an all-inclusive document. So you're putting the entire city at risk of basically halting its business and its economy is what's going to happen.
Can you rephrase that for me real quick? So if it invalidates the entire plan, what that means, does a front counter, is it closed now? Like we can't issue permits for any sort of building?
That can actually happen, yes. You can have somebody, you can basically say that we are not able to do business because we don't have an operating general plan. You can also we'll get letters from the Attorney General. It will take some time, but they will send us letters of indication that we need to come into compliance. Corona has never done that. We've always been good stewards. And that would be a very difficult process. So all of the things you have in the works in terms of new development could come to a stop.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask Joanna a question as well?
Yeah, please.
But in addition to stopping the commerce, as you say, in terms of the development that we want to see continuing, with the builder's remedy, you would also be dealing potentially with the threat of builders coming in. So instead of having to deal with potential multifamily housing in these few overlay zones, you would be dealing with the potential, without legal challenge to prevent it, from multifamily housing throughout the city.
That's correct.
So instead of focused
You actually
challenge,
blow the door wide open.
you're dealing with that challenge everywhere in the city. That's the potential. It's not the fines.
Yeah, the fine seems the least of it now. Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to add something because I too got my feathers ruffled a little bit from Vice Mayor Richens. You know, these are very hard decisions that we have to make. And what I personally am looking at is, do I want to fight the state and potentially allow them to come in and dictate what we do? And in order to prevent the housing in certain areas that you're asking for, allow them to do basically what they want with the city? And am I willing to allocate millions of dollars to fight that and take services and take that money away from something else that we're trying to provide some good stuff for the residents? And that's what I have to weigh. And I'm not willing to take a fight to the state all on our own for millions of dollars, and the outcome is most likely that they take over our planning and do what they want. And if you're mad about an overlay, you're going to be 10 times as mad about what they'll do on their own. So, you know, the decision for me in your scenario is actually easier, because I'm not willing to risk the entire city and everything that we've worked very hard to do, because we want to take the fight to the state. And it's got nothing to do, I've separated the issue between the residents and what we're going to do for the city and the potential damages. It's got nothing to do with how I feel about the residents or, you know, any disdain towards them or anything like that. I'm trying to protect the entire city. And Councilmember Casillas is right. We're put into a terrible decision that we have to make. And it's pretty unfair to say that if we decide to go against you, that it's a slight to the residents. We have an entire city that we are responsible for. And it's a little concerning that, you know, the way that you approached it is to say, if you vote against me, then you don't like the citizens. I think that's kind of unfair and kind of takes me back a little bit. So
Let me respond to that. Jackie's right. There's a pathway forward, and she's asking me what's the alternative path, and I don't know what the alternative path is. I can just guess at it. And I'm up here dying on moral ground, right? And the four of you, I'm assuming the four of you, are saying we're picking the lesser of two evils. We don't have a good vote in front of us tonight. It's either pick this evil or pick this evil, and we're trying to pick the lesser of two evils.
I think there's an opportunity for us to make some compromises. The Planning Commission did a hell of a job trimming out stuff that they thought they could. I think we have an opportunity to take a couple of pieces, but knowing how much time it took to get here, we're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to say rubber stamp? Yes, I'm not. I have, and I think the mayor has some things too he wants to talk about. Wants to talk about, but I agree. I don't want to be painted into this hole.
That is the vote in front of us tonight, is these overlay zones that satisfy a state requirement and all the penalties and perjury and harm that comes from the state, or fight it and get the harm and penalties that comes from the state. So there's no good win tonight. And did I come at you guys a little strong? Absolutely. Am I trying to get all 4 of you to vote no? Absolutely. So I'm making my sales pitches. Maybe it was a little bit of a guilt trip. Maybe it was a lot bit of a guilt trip, and Tony's offended. But and Jackie, and God only knows the other two. But I do make some valid points. These overlay zones are horrible, and they're horrible for the residents here. And it's not a good decision, and it's a state that's put us in this position. And if you don't have a public conversation on how horrible these things are, then it goes unnoticed. And I don't even know that this meeting will go noticed. But,
That's a good point. I
right?
mean, having the discussion this is democracy, right? And having the discussion and having residents see more than anything just how difficult these policy decisions can be and how much, they wreck us, I think is important. And apology accepted, even though you didn't apologize. But
I officially apologize.
But I think, to Councilmember Speak's point, what we have always been really good at is everywhere where we can find a solution, we do. It's not that we are not up for the fight. We're always up for the fight, Tom. I mean, we're fighting it out right now. This is what we do. We're always up for the fight. And clearly, Ms. Coletta is up for the fight. She's been going through it every single, it's like it's a scalpel, right? She's going in with a scalpel through the map. So, and I don't think it's about time because we're stretching it out as much as we possibly can. So let's find where it is that we can make these improvements. We have. And Ms. Coletta, is there any other space where you think that we could change some of these overlay zones to another area? And
I would say.
are there any other little wins? I mean, I'm trying to take you out of the hot seat, but Wes, I mean, you opened up that.
No, I think that, and I'll say there's probably no one in this city that knows more about every single parcel in the city than that woman sitting in the front row. I mean, she's been here for 25 years. She probably remembers more than we've ever forgotten about, who is in which place and where, and could ask her about a sign on this street and she remembers who it was and what they did with it. So if we've scoured, we're already going to challenge her with the ones that the Planning Commission dutifully stripped out. I tend to believe that she's done all she can. And if we have a couple more that we're gonna remove.
Which ones would they be and where?
Yeah, and that's
And
what
how?
we've talked about. I think she made the recommendations of the 3 that we spoke about, and I think that those are good places to start.
Okay. So, Ms. Edwards, give me a little bit of guidance here. 14 and 19, I don't have to read, I only have to read once? Or do we enact them in one motion? And then the other ones have to be read individually?
So that is correct. 14 and 19 can be taken together, and the other public hearings need to be read because they have an ordinance.
Okay. So then 14 and 19, it could be one motion?
Correct.
Okay. So do we have a motion for agenda item 14 and 19?
Painfully, yes.
I'll second.
Wait,
Yeah,
Go
yes,
ahead.
so if
Thank
I
you.
can help the mayor out here, so on agenda item 14, we are asking to remove Site 7 from Zone 3. And we are asking to remove from Zone 5 parcels 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39?
I would actually need to see it on a map. I'm sorry, Ms. Coletta.
Sure. If we could put that up, we just want to get this in the motion reading, so we make sure. So this would be Zone 5, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39. These are the parcels on the south side of Grand.
Okay, so I thought that, I thought that was item number 17.
we are on the general plan amendment, correct?
We're on number 14.
Number 14.
So yes, that is involved in a general plan amendment. So we are going to have to remove these if we are going to keep it gateway business.
Okay, so on these particular parcels, I sympathize with the speaker. And my concern is that there's a misunderstanding of the value of the property if it changes from commercial to multifamily residential. I believe, and some of my colleagues on the council believe, that if that designation changes to multifamily residential, the value of the property is greater than the general commercial that it is now. And I would be willing to ask for a continuance to have a conversation with the property owner so that we could make sure that we either agree or don't agree. One last chance to have that conversation with you. I believe that an 80-year resident is due that, and I know that staff has had conversations with you, but I'd like to have one last opportunity for this.
So I have a really quick question. If we excluded those and Ms. Salgado went out and found out herself that it's indeed more, as the mayor has said, could she come back to us and add it back in when we do the tweaks that we have to do?
Absolutely, we can.
Okay.
We since we have a phase 2 with the shortfall of sites, if that comes back, then I can put it in that at that time. That's what I would like to do.
Okay, and that's what I'm thinking. I don't want to continue. If there's a question about these and we can, and if there's an ability, as long as us saying, stripping these out now, and Ms. Salgado was to get, additional information, not from us, but from outside, that we would be able to add it back in a later date.
So what would be the proper motion for that? Do I just move to take those out of item number 14?
Yes.
My item number 17.
Well, we're talking about a couple different things here, Ms. Salgado.
Well, you're asking me, though. I'm Ms. Salgado, and I didn't have that there.
No, I understand. What I'm trying to do is give us a little bit more time, so as it relates to your property, so that we could have a discussion and you could possibly do some research to see if the multifamily designation increases the value of your property over a general
So Ms. Salgado,
designation.
tonight, we will remove your parcels tonight.
Okay, so I can
Okay.
go home?
Yes,
and
ma'am.
Fine, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
I'll have more to say
But
later.
I want to be clear that my motion to do so is so that we could explore the value.
No, I need you guys to explore it. You can't
There you
do
go.
it?
We're going to exclude it, and then we can, and then we'll have an
To explore.
opportunity.
Let me ask you one thing. Why are we having so many buildings built like Norco, the Egg Ranch? All of that, you can't go through there at all because it's all going to be commercial building. Everything's commercial. Everything is big buildings coming in, all on Magnolia, all through Home Gardens, everything. That's all. Who authorized that and didn't think about housing then? Huh?
I can't speak
I'm with
for
him.
I can't speak for Home Gardens or Norco. I can only speak for Corona.
But the people that come into Corona are Home Gardens and Norco.
I think, Mr. Mayor, I think that we're going to, and at least I'm suggesting we make
And
the
that-
motion to remove her parcels, so that
Yes.
way,
You can go on with your business. Let me know, and maybe somebody will have the courtesy of calling me and saying, we approved it and that's it.
no, ma'am.
That's what I heard from Ms.
No,
Collette's
ma'am.
office. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate all your time and the courtesy you have extended me. Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Ellis, I'm thoroughly confused about how to proceed.
think-
I just know that I'm going to have to read a bunch, so
Mayor, I
I'm
think
prepared to
that
do
the-
so.
Can I make a suggestion that Ms. Coletta reads
There you
the
go.
motion for you?
Perfect.
and
Oh, can we do
she'll-
that?
Yes, she
Yeah.
can do that.
Fantastic.
So
Finally, something useful, Dean.
That time took years for me to be useful to you, I see.
Okay, so there was a motion to approve the resolution, which was 2023-01 010. However, there is the request, we will be removing Site 7 from Zone 3. We will be removing sites 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39 from Zone 5. And then we will also be removing from Zone 5 parcels, I believe, I can't see, so
6 and 57.
thank you very much, those two parcels as well.
Okay. Now I have to read them all, don't I?
Just for the ordinances.
Okay, so 14 and 19, I don't need.
No.
And we don't need
Ms.
to.
Coletta just read those.
Got it. Okay. Would any of my colleagues like to read? No. Okay, thank you.
All you, sir.
Okay, so item number 15, no. Yeah. No, I got it, Tom. I got it.
Mayor, can we vote on the motion that Ms. Coletta just read, and then we can
Please.
take each of the items individually, each ordinance individually?
So we'll vote on the ones that she just read, and then we have to read 15, 16, 17.
Correct, that is correct.
So much fun. Yep. Love it. Can't wait till November. Okay. Was it the motion, there was a motion, and I'll second it, and we can please vote. Okay. That motion passes 4-1. Moving on to number 15. Introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3360. First reading of an ordinance adding chapter 17.31 Affordable Housing Overlay Zone to Title 17 Zoning of the Corona Municipal Code to establish regulations for an affordable housing overlay zone. We're going to vote on them individually?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, can we make sure that that includes item A of that? He just read the ordinance, but it has an item A on that, which would be included.
Yes,
That-
the minutes
That does
will-
not have to be read.
Yes, the minutes will include both of the items.
Okay. And I'll move.
But I don't, my button doesn't work, so.
Okay.
It didn't work?
Okay, that motion passes 4-1. Item number 16. Introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3361. First reading of an ordinance approving an amendment to the South Corona Community Facilities Plan to change the land use designation from LDR, low-density residential, to MDR, medium-density residential, for 2 acres located at 1220 West Ontario Avenue and 5.4 acres located at 2880 California Avenue, CFPA 2022-0002. And I will move.
Clerk, again, it includes item A, correct?
Yes, the motion will include both items.
Dean, am I missing something?
No, see, you're reading the ordinance, which is true, but there's an item A in the recommended action, which is the environmental determination. So it's item A, and then,
Oh.
and then the B is the ordinance, which needs to be read. You don't need to read A, but the motion is A plus B, which is
Gotcha.
read. Yeah.
Please vote. That item passes 4-1.
And Mr. Mayor, so on item 17, just remember to exclude Site 7 in Zone 3 on item 17.
Okay. So item number.
Mayor, would you like me to read it for you?
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
Dean. Thank you.
The motion would include item A, the removal of the items that Ms. Coletta just read off. Clerk, did you get those? Plus.
I did.
Introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3362, first reading of an ordinance approving a change of zone to 1, add an affordable overlay zone for various properties to permit high-density residential in conjunction with existing zoning. 2, change the zoning for various properties from agricultural to R1 single-family residential. And 3, change the zoning for various properties from C2 restricted commercial to mobile home park zone. CZ 2022-0003.
And I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I pushed the button.
Okay. Number 18, to include item number A. And
if I can interrupt you, Mr. Mayor, on
Yes,
this one, make
please.
sure we get this one. So we will, on the specific plan amendment, we will be removing sites 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, and 39 from Zone 5, as well as sites 56 and 57 from Zone 5.
Ms. Edwards, did you get those?
Mayor, yes, we
exclusions?
did.
Thank you. So, including item A, those items that we just excluded, introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3363. First reading of an ordinance approving amendments to various specific plans to, 1, add an affordable housing overlay zone for properties identified on the housing sites inventory to permit high-density residential in conjunction with existing zoning. Change the zoning on various properties from low-density residential to medium-density residential. And 3, make commensurate text changes, SPA 2022-0003. And I'll move.
Second.
And that item passes 4-1. Moving on to administrative reports. Resolution approving Cycle 1 of the general plan amendments for 2023 to include general plan amendments 2022-0001, 2022-0002, and 2022-0003 to amend the land uses on various properties within the city of Corona. Does any council member want a staff report on this? Okay. Ms. Edwards, I'm sorry, Tom? No. Okay. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, I do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues? Nope, I will move. Please vote. That item passes 4-1. Number 21, in ordinance adding chapter 10.47 to the Corona Municipal Code regarding unlawful possession of catalytic converters. Thank God, something else. Does any council member want a staff report on this item?
Yes, I would.
Lieutenant Perez, thank you for joining us this evening. Will you please come on down and present the report? Happy to see you back on duty, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. The agenda item for you today is for a first reading of the catalytic converter municipal code, making it illegal to possess a catalytic converter without providing proof of legal possession. A catalytic converter is an exhaust emissions control device located underneath vehicles. It contains palladium and rhodium valued at several $1,000s per ounce. At the close of market on Monday, palladium was valued at $1,400 an ounce, and rhodium was valued at $11,600 an ounce. They can cost victims more than $2,000 to replace and yield up to $200 on the black market. The suspects are cutting off these catalytic converters and selling them on the black market where they're being destroyed and the precious metals are being removed. Corona is not unique to see these significant increase in these crimes. It's a nationwide phenomenon being driven by the value of those precious metals. In 2020, we had 192 reported catalytic converter thefts. In 2021, we had 702 reported thefts. And in 2022, we had 941 reported thefts. As of the 21st of February, we've had 76 reported thefts this year. The police department has taken a proactive approach in sharing the information about catalytic converter and how to safeguard against it through social media posts, neighborhood watch meetings, and various community events. We actively investigate any suspects' leads, and we collaborated with the legal department to develop the language for this ordinance. There are no current state or federal laws applicable to prosecute any unlawful possession of a catalytic converter without an identifiable victim. Two laws that were passed in September of last year addressed the sale, so the purchaser of a catalytic converter. But there's a gap in the law that with this ordinance would help the citizens of Corona. Typically, when we arrest somebody for a possession of stolen property, there's identifying information on that stolen property, like a VIN number or a serial number. With the proposed ordinance, we'd be able to arrest the suspect and prosecute them without identifying a victim. This municipal code update would help deter criminal activity, specify consequences for illegal activity, help aid law enforcement investigations, and so a proactive approach from the city. Our goal here is to let the criminal element know that they can't come to Corona and steal catalytic converters. The details of the code make it unlawful to possess a catalytic converter without proving legal ownership. Proof that the catalytic converter was stolen will not be required. Each catalytic converter is an additional violation in the municipal code, and it is a misdemeanor. Lawful possession would be a bill of sale from the original owner with photographs, documentation from an auto body shop proving owner relinquished ownership, electronic communication from the previous owner, photographs from the vehicle which the catalytic converter was originated, and a vehicle registration associated with the catalytic converter containing an etched associated license plate number or vehicle identification number. Several cities have adopted ordinances that are very similarly worded to ours. Fresno just adopted theirs on Thursday. And while I'm encouraged that these will have an effect, they're too fresh and there's no data yet to analyze to see if they've had a positive impact on their community. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I forgot to mention, we brought this forward at the direction of Council Members Speak and Steiner.
Thank you, Lieutenant Perez.
You're welcome, sir.
Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, I have one speaker card for this item.
Come on down.
It's pretty crazy. We've had, I think it's 7 vehicles in our little neighborhood. We have 56 houses in our neighborhood. We've had 7 with the cats stolen, some of them with 2 cats. The Sequoias and Tundras and stuff like that. They have 2 really, really desirable cats. The Ulmers who are here, they've had 2 of them swiped. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'm kind of surprised that it wasn't by now, even by state law. I know they were passing some kind of state laws to do something, if we can do this and it makes make it a felony. I mean, it's worth more. They're worth more. They're worth more than just $200. They're worth, the value of some of these. I think the last one that I had to go get for somebody was, I want to say the list price on it was $2,200 or $2,400, something like that. One for an Accord. They got stolen all the time. Another lady that comes here all the time regularly, she got hers swiped right over by your house. So it happens all the time, and we've got to do something about it. So if this helps, like I said, I'd crank it up. I don't know what exactly, if it makes it more difficult to make it a felony, but if you can keep them, make it raise the bar a little bit on it. But I don't think necessarily putting the VIN number on it, except just as a, I don't know that helps very much, because these guys, they're not storing them at their house very much. If you don't catch them going home, to the pile or wherever the stash is, I don't know that you're going to catch them, but anyways, go for it, do it, crank it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I just wanted to say thank you to Lieutenant Perez and the Police Department for bringing this forward. It's definitely, I didn't know what the numbers were, and I mean, you just hear about it, but seeing those is just shocking. I did want to confirm what the penalties are. I know misdemeanor, but I want to know what that means in terms of fines or, spikes under the fingernail, or what the what we can do.
I'll let Lieutenant Perez answer that question, but I can tell you that we do not, as a municipal code violation, we can't make a felony.
Yeah.
Misdemeanor as high as we can go.
Thank you.
The fines if convicted from the misdemeanor would be up to $500 and, I'm sorry, up to $1,000 and up to 6 months in jail.
Can I add, council member, I'm sorry, but I'd like just to add that this municipal code closes a gap for us. Our first and primary goal is to arrest for the felony possession of stolen property, which is a California Penal Code 496. However, that's a specific intent, and so we have to be able to prove a victim and actual theft. Whereas this at least gets us an opportunity of a general intent, simple possession as a crime, and then, but our goal is obviously to arrest under the penal code when possible.
Sure. So, I see this as a really great thing to get out in the community that I know when people call and they'll complain to me about their cat being stolen, my first question to them is always, did you report it? And half the time people say no. And I say, please report it. We need to know where these are happening. And frankly, with this ordinance, it would help us tie back. So is there a way for us to set it at a certain amount, as high as it could be, to $1,000?
It is set that way.
Okay, great.
So and if we do it as each item, as is stated in the presentation, each catalytic converter is a separate offense.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Lieutenant Perez, thank you so much for putting on the presentation. We brought this forward last August, I think, as a future agenda item, so I'm glad it finally arrived. I think it's common sense that we do whatever we can. This is a difficult crime to catch people, kind of like mail theft. We've got to get a little bit lucky, and I think whatever we can do to make it a little bit harder for the criminals is good. I did want to know, is there going to be any sort of marketing or reaching out to the recycle centers and auto garages and say, hey, just so you know, if you're caught with this, we're coming after you?
Councilmember, that is a code that has already been passed by the state. And so we've been monitoring. The reason why when you and Councilmember Speak asked us last year to look into this, we were monitoring California laws that were progressing through the legislation, and they did pass a code that will hold the recycler, the business, responsible for buying the stolen or buying a catalytic converter without the proof of ownership. However, there was nothing to address in the California law that passed holding the actual criminal accountable for stealing the items. So we're hopeful that those items come back before Sacramento to help us at the local level. But at this point, there is accountability for recyclers. These don't make it to that level.
Right. I guess my last question would be, is there a potential to offer a reward for those that rat out those who are taking those converters or collecting them and recycling them?
I mean, I believe that's
probably more for Jacob and Dean.
That's one of your
But is it something
purview.
that we could look into?
Sorry, in conversing with the city attorney, I didn't catch your question.
The question was, could we look into offering a reward for a resident who turns in a recycler or someone who may be in possession of 5 catalytic converters? Because we got to put teeth into these laws that the state's not doing. So this is an opportunity, potentially. Maybe it's not a good idea, maybe it is, but these tweakers, man, if they can get $500 reward for ratting out the other tweaker, maybe they would.
Yeah, we can look into that. Thanks for the suggestion.
I think it seems like, the last person we caught, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but they weren't even from here. The guys we did catch, they were in Beaumont or something? Or Riverside, I forget, but not here.
Correct. Yeah, they were out of city.
Yeah, so these guys are just roaming into town and for the night.
Just wanted to ask one quick follow-up question. You had said that the fine was $1,000 and 6 months in jail. Is that correct?
That's
or up to. And how does that work if they've got 10 of them That's 10 $1,000 fines, and is it up to 60 months in jail? Or is it 6 months no matter how many you got?
I believe we're going to start with the 250, and we're going to incrementally increase for each up to 1,000. So once you hit the fourth, then it's
Yeah.
$1,000 for each one of those above that.
Can we just start at 1,000?
It's all, I mean, this is ultimately a court decision. When these convictions happen, they're happening in the court. So depending upon, it's how the judge decides to treat it, consecutively or together or what have you. But we certainly will be, it'll be my office, obviously, arguing the cases, and we can argue for the maximum.
Okay.
Of course.
And Councilmember Steiner, who brought this motion, has volunteered to read it.
Give me a minute.
Here.
You got it, Wesley? Oh, thanks. There. I just put a word or two in my mouth. All right, let's see. All right, introduced by title only and waive full reading for consideration of ordinance number 3364, the first reading of an ordinance regarding the unlawful possession of a catalytic converter.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Councilmember Steiner.
Okay, that motion passes 5-0. Item number 22, ordinance of the City of Corona amending Chapter 8.02 of the Corona Municipal Code relating to renaming of the chapter and the inclusion of a declaration of nuisance for secondhand smoke and associated policy for city enforcement of nuisance complaints. Does any council member want a staff report?
I would.
Okay. Mr. Bradley, Assistant City Manager, will present the report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. As indicated before the council tonight is the consideration of introducing an ordinance that would do two things. First, amend Chapter 8.02, smoking regulations in city facilities and vehicles, which is a chapter that simply prohibits smoking at those locations. The intent would be to rename it to City and Community Smoking Regulations, which would allow for the codification of a new ordinance provision that simply says and declares secondhand smoke as a nuisance and allows residents to take a private legal action to force a cessation of smoking when they live next door to a smoker and that smoke drifts onto their property and creates a nuisance for them. Also associated with this tonight is an enforcement policy statement and a resolution which simply says that the city will not expend staff time or resources to enforce the ordinance, which is indicating and clarifying that this is a local tool or a private tool that residents can use to force a cessation of secondhand smoke on their property. We always recommend to residents to try to talk to their neighbors and work through issues, but this allows them in cases where there are no longer any resolution to issues to get a court order to stop smoke from coming on their property. This item was originally presented to the City Council at the Committee of the Whole in November. And there are a few minor edits that were made to the ordinance to fix some formatting issues and numbering of items in the ordinance, but that has been fixed and is before you today for your consideration of adoption. And happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I just want to say thank you for, I know this is one of the ones that I brought in for us to discuss, and happy to see it go forward, and we'll bring hopefully some relief to some of the folks that have come and talked to us about issues that they've had with neighbors and other things. So thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Vice Mayor, may I make a?
Oh, yep, Jim.
Roger, I just want to make sure. So the city is not going to become the smoke police. Because people are going to call us, and our response is going to be that's a private property issue.
That's correct. When you adopt the resolution this evening, it clarifies and is very clear that staff will not be involved in doing any kind of enforcement on this ordinance.
Thank you.
Ms. Casillas, do you have any questions, comments? All right. Ms. Edwards, are there any speaker cards from the public?
Mayor, yes, we have one speaker card for this item, and we also received 2 email correspondence. They're at the dais, and they will be included in the meeting minutes. And both of the written comments were in support of the proposed item.
All right, Joe?
So I have a question on behalf of another resident who was hesitant to come up to the microphone. In the case of a short-term rental or a rental property, who would the cause of action be against? Who would be responsible under for this cause of action? So if say there's a tenant, do you have to sue the actual tenant, or do you sue the property owner who's doing the nuisance? So, you know, if it's owner, renter, landlord, property owner. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Was there just the one speaker card?
Yes, Mayor, just one.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments from my colleagues?
I think we did that when you were in the bathroom.
Okay,
but-
I actually do have a question. Sorry. My question was, and we had talked about it, is the way that the municipal code is written, or the ordinance is written. My only issue was that the word cannabis was not used. It talked about leaf products, which in a generalization would include cannabis. It specifically says tobacco a couple of times in there. And so my concern is that it's, that there may be a vagueness, and maybe Dean could address, is it vague enough that it could be challenged? Well, I didn't know, it doesn't say cannabis type of thing, or is it specific enough that if the issue was with cannabis, that, you know, we wouldn't have much of a legal standing?
Well, I think we'd have a legal standing. I mean, I think it's clear enough, but at the same time, it's also easy to add it if you wanted to add it. So I think the answer is both, quite frankly.
Okay.
So if you wanted to add it, we can certainly do that here on the dais by just directing that we add cannabis as an example.
I think I mentioned, I mean, one of the reasons I think we worded it that way was we wanted to catch vapes and anything else, anybody's burning of anything, but I don't have any issue with it.
All of those are specifically listed, right? So it talks about vape, it talks about pipes, it talks about cigars, it says the word tobacco a couple times.
Yeah.
And it says leaf, smokable leaf type stuff, right? So, and I'm paraphrasing, please don't quote me on that, but it specifically just doesn't say the word cannabis in the list. So my motion would be to just add the word cannabis in there so that it's in there, it's kind of clear as day, among all of the other, you know, things that are listed in there.
We will do that, and on the second reading, we will include in the agenda packet where we've added that word for clarity.
I don't know if there needs to be a second on that motion.
There does.
Okay.
Mr. Derleth, just really quick, if there's, the speaker did have a question about who would be the party?
I think in that situation, it's going to be fact dependent, so it could be both, depending upon.
If it's a short-term rental?
Yeah, a short-term rental, but if it's a short-term rental that, you know, maybe prohibits smoking, right, but doesn't do anything to enforce that prohibition or something, I can see factual situations. So I think it's going to be fact-dependent, and it could be both. And I understand the practical realities of finding the short-term tenant to enforce that against and the like, but sitting here, the answer is I think it could be both, depending upon the facts.
Great, thank you.
Situation.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Can we vote, please?
The ordinance needs to be read for this
Oh,
item.
of course it does. I'm sorry, I didn't turn the page.
Would you like me to read it?
So if you can do that and also note to direct me to include the word cannabis for clarity's sake.
So, introduced by title only and waive full reading of ordinance number 3365, first reading of an ordinance of the City of Corona, California, amending Corona Municipal Code, Chapter 8.02, relating to a renaming of the chapter of the inclusion of a declaration of nuisance for secondhand smoke, including cannabis in the ordinance. Is that clear enough?
Yes. And then item B, and then include.
Also including item B.
There you go.
Please vote. That item passes 5-0. Okay, moving on to boards and commissions. Report from City Council commissioners and staff for the Library Board of Trustees, there are none. Planning and Housing Commission, there are none. Parks and Recreation Commission, there are none. Regional meetings. An update from Councilmember Jackie Casillas on the IREN meeting of February 21st, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to provide some concrete projects. I've spoken about IREN. Again, this is a new entity created. It is Western Riverside Council of Governments, Coachella Valley Council of Governments, and San Bernardino County. And the three of us together have formed this group that is now receiving essentially the money that our residents are paying. It's finally coming back to us. So we're looking and talking about $65 million over the course of 5 years and about 10.8 annually. So what I wanted to share is that we had a meeting in which place we talked about the programs and budget allocations, and we actually approved the contracts for the implementers. So IREN itself will not be the implementer. We contracted that out. But I wanted to share with you the 3 buckets where these monies are getting allocated to. So there's a public sector bucket, there's a workforce education and training bucket, and then there's a codes and standards program. To get you all thinking about ways that we could take advantage of these monies, because I want to make sure that these dollars are coming back specifically to the city of Corona. So that's why I'm taking such an active role here, but to our Western region in general. So goal number 1 is to invest in public sector programs. And this is by far of the 3 buckets, of the 3 goals, the one that's going to be allocated the most money. In a 5-year program, in a 5-year budget, it will be allocated $29.6 million plus $10.75 million in incentives. So that's an average of $4.9 million for the program and $1.79 annually. And these are the kinds of tactics, the kinds of programs that this goal will include. So establishing person-to-person support for local governments to get higher levels of assistance and support for their energy efficiency projects. Number 2, develop or enhance strategic energy plans to connect local government goals related to climate resilience and economic development to energy efficiency programs and adoption. And lastly, create resources for the public sector to tap into energy efficiency and distributed energy resource programs offered by other providers and IOUs. And there will be incentives in here too. So this is where I think that we could probably see the most return on that. There's also the tactics of deliver a resource offering to provide incentives for savings based on normalized metered energy consumption, NMEC. That's a new acronym I didn't know about. Achieved over 3 to 5 years. And lastly, leverage sustaining financing mechanisms for HVAC upgrades in public buildings. I think that's one where we're probably going to see some good incentives. So that's goal 1. Goal 2 is the workforce education and training bucket. And this will receive $15.1 million over the 5-year course with an annual average of $2.51 million. And some tactics here that go into this bucket are convene and engage partners and organizations to define and establish a green workforce. So this might help some workforce development locally, and it could be an economic development driver. Second, reinforce pathways from high school, trade schools, and colleges into jobs in the energy efficiency workforce in collaboration with established community partners. That's one that my ears perked up for. And lastly, facilitate identifying opportunities for building companies and local workforce partners to network and connect. So those are monies that are going to be used in those initiatives. And the last bucket number 3, codes and standards sector programs will receive $9.39 million over the course of 5 years, an average of $1.56 million annually, and they will support things like assessing training opportunities available in the region, offer, quote, train the trainer support to providers on energy efficiency topics and trends, encourage providers to focus on the needs of the local market, and lastly, facilitate the development of multiple sites, deliver mechanisms for contractor and industry training programs. So I mention this because, and this will be shared with, if it hasn't been already, with City Manager Ellis, that we're constantly talking about leveraging our own dollars and our own programs and finding outside resources to do so. This is the construction of those opportunities. So we are literally at the table when these programs are being made. So, you know, when our amazing staff, when Savat's coming up with a new project, or, you know, when the city's updating some capital improvements, we might be able to use these funds as incentives or use these resources to not spend our own money. So, good stuff. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have an update from Councilmember Speak on the Board of Directors of the Western Riverside County Regional Wastewater Authority meeting of February 23rd, 2023.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah,
Go.
yeah, it's WRCRA, right?
RCRA.
WICRA, sorry.
Yeah, we had a really good meeting. Lots of good stuff happening over at RCRA. We completed and approved our final recycled water policy, which basically determines what we do with our water, what we do with our recycled water. And believe it or not, there is requirements that we release it into the river to ensure that species continue to thrive there, including we issued a contract for $70,000 for somebody to go and count the birds and look at the bushes, and I was very jealous. To go and look and see how well that the recycled water was keeping those folks alive, and looking forward to reading that report when it comes out. Let's see, we issued a few purchase orders, mostly for chemicals, and really talking about the volatility of the chemical market, and really not just the volatility of it, but actually getting it here. So long discussion there, hoping to push back. I know that the city is helping with that as well. And let's see, there was a couple of executive committees that I'm not a part of, and we are being awarded a hazard mitigation grant from FEMA for almost $1 million for critical facilities and resiliencies in our pump station. And we have 2 capital projects that are going forward. Our anaerobic digester project is proceeding and has good progress toward completion in August. And our odor control project, which is scheduled at currently at 63% completion, and will be completed at the end of December. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much, Councilmember Speak. Next, we have an update from Councilmember Speak on the Riverside County Transportation Commission, RCTC, Western Programs meeting of February 27th, 2023.
It'll be a good one. Only one item, which was the formal death of the expansion of the Metrolink station in downtown Riverside. The current owners of the property were looking at additional property that happened to actually, one of their parcels was here in Corona. And however, the cost to move them well exceeded the total amount for the project itself. So we voted to eliminate the expansion. Unfortunately, that will force an additional or a new location for the CV Rail project if it ever goes forward, but they need additional space in Riverside. So they'll have to find a new location, but unfortunately, we wasted about $4 million pursuing that location until they found out the move cost was excess of $80 million. That's it, thanks.
Okay, that's the shortest update from you ever. Next, we have an update from Councilmember Steiner on the Riverside Transit Agency RTA Board meeting of February 23rd, 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, as the new year begins, RTA ridership is off to, readership probably too, is off to a very positive start. The most recent ridership numbers in January show buses carried 420,000 boardings, an increase of 43% compared to the same time just a year ago. The increase can be attributed to several things, including special promotions, as well as the fact that many customers are returning to work and school following the pandemic. January is the 18th straight month that RTA has seen an increase in ridership compared to the previous year. RTA has extended a special promotion that offers customers a monthly pass for just $5. Customers can easily purchase the $5 pass on the Go mobile app for the entire month of March. The app also provides a place to plan your trip, get service alerts, and view maps and schedules. At the same time, RTA is offering a promotion that lets youth, seniors, disabled, and veterans ride the bus for just 25 cents. During the full month of operations in January, Go Micro on-demand service carried more than 4,300 customers, which is nearly 150 boardings a day. Launched in mid-December, Go Micro offers shared rides in the Hemet San Jacinto Micro Transit Zone, provides an easy way to schedule and track trips in real time. A fleet of brand-new 40-foot CNG buses are arriving at RTA as part of the effort to swap out RTA's oldest, highest mileage vehicles and replace them with newer model. In all, RTA plans to roll out 70 new buses over the next 14 months. Future bus orders will include hydrogen-powered buses as we inch towards our goal of phasing out CNG buses and replacing them with zero-emission vehicles beginning in 2026. And finally, looking ahead, Transit Driver Appreciation Day is Saturday, March 18th, so be sure to tell bus drivers how much they mean to you. And if you have a comment about an awesome bus driver, please contact RTA or Corona Transit to share your thank yous. Mayor, that completes my report.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Steiner. Moving on to city attorney reports and comments. Mr. Derleth, do you have any comments?
I have no reports, but just based upon the question from earlier this evening about the rewards, we already have a municipal code provision that gives city manager and city police chief the authority to offer those rewards, so we will work on that.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, and city manager's reports and comments. Mr. Ellis, do you have any comments?
Thanks, Mayor. Just one comment tonight. I wanted to take a moment to recognize an important member of our team, Roger Bradley. He's our assistant city manager. Roger was recently named the new city manager of Downey here in California. Roger's last day with us will be next week, March 7th. Becoming a city manager has been a long-time career goal of Roger's, and we're really proud of him for reaching that milestone. Roger managed a wide range of critical projects for us here in Corona, and he's been instrumental in more organizational improvements than I can count. On a personal note, Roger's also been my right hand for 2.5 years, and he's going to be missed. I'm really grateful to him, all of his hard work, and for his outstanding service to our community. I want to thank him for that.
Yes, absolutely. I think we all probably have something to say nice about the assistant city manager, so we'll do it in our comments. And Councilmember Speaker, you're up first.
Thank you. First, I will tell Mr. Bradley what I told Mr. Denzel, that I will never be going to Downey. I will never at all. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for your service. I know that we worked pretty closely together on getting things done and moving things forward. So I want to thank you for all your hard work, and I know that you were as big a champion for change as you were for staff. And pushing things. So I appreciate that, and I know staff did well, and we do as well. So thank you. Let's see. Went to the Unity Awards with a couple of my colleagues here this week, and I was very happy to see a member of the Mayor's Youth Council win an award. Nor did a great job. I was bummed I had to leave fast or quickly because I had another event, but I did see her today and congratulate her again. I want to say, I know Denzel's not here today. Hopefully, maybe he might be listening, or he's completely forgot about us, and he's up in Colorado. But the community conversations, I think it was a hit. It was a really great job. It was nice to see lots of folks here, some great conversation. Looking forward to the next one, of course, as always. And I want to say thank you to staff and everybody that was here that was supporting that, and our community members that served food and helped make that a special night. I was, last night, I was in El Cerrito. Supervisor Spiegel had a town hall. I think the first one, I can't even tell you how long. There's people who had lived there for 40 and 50 years, and they hadn't ever done one. So it was really, and it wasn't a project, it was really just kind of a get out and meet the departments. And it was a great turnout, about 75 people. I was very interested just because, El Cerrito is, partially surrounded by District 5 and the folks in El Cerrito are neighbors, both in a physical sense and from a sense of being in Corona for a long time. I want to remind folks that tomorrow night, those of you that live in LMD Zone 19, like myself, there'll be a community meeting tomorrow, a night at 6 o'clock at Santiago High School. They're going to learn all about is the grass greener, and how can it be greener? And this is my first opportunity to speak about it publicly. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it, and we've got lots of interest online. Hopefully we get a good crowd. Corona American will be having their opening day on Saturday. Unfortunately, I won't be there. And then on the 11th, there'll be a Bedford Day. They're going to be opening up Bedford for folks to come in and take a peek and see what they're doing and how they're expanding there, and showing some of their amenities for their facilities. And then Corona Pony is going to be celebrating their opening day as well. So both Mountain Gate Park this week and Santana Park next week will be busy places. So if you're around there, don't panic and don't think it's something bad. It's something good. Lastly, March is Women's History Month. And I wanted to call out this weekend, there will be a history presentation happening in Riverside, and one of our actually a member of District 2, a resident of District 2, will be presenting on the very first women's judge in Riverside County, Mary Alice Sutter. She was a police judge and served as a judge in the Temescal Township, and she was right here from Corona. And she served in the 30s and 40s, and in fact, Shea Cortez, she's going to be doing that presentation in Riverside next week, and I know there's some controversy on whether or not she was a real judge, and she's going to be presenting some evidence next week showing that she gave out sentences, and she was known for being very imaginative with her punishments and creative and trying to elicit change in people. So I'll be, those of you that if you're going to be around in Riverside tomorrow or this weekend, tickets are still available. Thanks.
Councilmember Steiner.
Well, Roger, I already pretty much told you how I feel about you and how much I appreciate you. I hope that when you get over to Downey, you don't have to deal with a grade separation right out of the gate. And I hope you don't have to deal with contract negotiations right out of the gate. So, but if you do, I know you can handle it. I wanted to briefly, well, a little more briefly, acknowledge one of our local high school students. Luis Valencia is a senior at Orange Grove High School in Corona. Luis has been involved in YMCA programs for over 6 years. He has been a leader at our YMCA leadership site over that time, transforming from a shy 7th grader to a senior leader of the program. He is someone who has taken our younger students under his wing as a student mentor, who go out of his way to make sure everyone feels welcome. In addition to the time he has spent at our YMCA Teen Leadership Center, Luis has really thrived in the YMCA program, the Youth in Government program. Youth in Government is a teen leadership program based on a model of the California government. This program is built of 1,500 students from all over the state of California. And the program focuses on the legislative process of writing bills, debating those bills, and finally voting on those bills. Luis has been a part of this program for 3 years, and this year, as a senior, has taken a major leadership role in our YMCA delegation. And there was only 4 delegates chosen, so Luis was one of only 4 to represent the Corona-Norco area. Youth in Government has 2 overnight conferences, the second one being at the state capitol in Sacramento. For the first conference, Luis rallied over 300 students to sign a petition about topics that he was passionate about. At the second conference, Luis was awarded the Spirit of the Constitutional Convention Award for being the one student out of all who most embodied inclusivity, vulnerability, and who best supported his fellow delegates. For the Spirit Award, Luis was announced as the recipient in front of 1,500 students at the closing ceremony. Luis was selected through an evaluation process by the adult program advisors. And what makes this even more special for me and Don Kindred, is since Don Kindred and I started up our program again, our music program again over at Orange Grove High, Luis was there on day one. He shows up every Wednesday, and he's smart, he's funny, he keeps everybody loose, a really good personality, and he's a really, really good musician. He's really getting good. So Luis, if you ever see this, just want you to know that this city council and this community is really proud of you, buddy. Keep up the good work. That's it.
Councilmember Casillas?
Thank you. Roger, you're going to be missed. You really have worked so darn hard and have just been, you've been so consistent and determined and unwavering in the fact that we can find solutions, we can get them done even when times are really hard. And so Downey's really lucky to get you, and we're unlucky to lose you, but we're very proud and happy for you. So thanks for your service. I just wanted to add a comment today about, earlier today we had this really great committee of the whole meeting in which we were presented with preliminary, it was the very first master plan presentation. And I just want to remind everyone that this has been a very lengthy process. The presentation at the meeting was not all of a sudden. We've been working at this as a community. We've had pop-up events at City Park. We've had surveys. We've had input from, I want to say thousands of residents. Is that accurate? Over 2,000 residents. I'm checking on the stats back there. Yep, that's right. So we've been working on this master plan for a while, and our consulting team and Mr. Cortez presented preliminarily at the committee what the results of that feedback has been. But this conversation is continuing. Nothing was, decided at that meeting. That will not, like the details are still to come. They will still be coming before the Parks Commission, and we will have multiple conversations from here until the adoption to get it right. The consultant said today during the presentation, this is like landing the ship, right? We're just trying to get a good sense of the fact that this was the feedback that we got from the community. So designing the park is a process, and we will all continue to be a part of it and involved in it as we have been. And I'm just really, really, really excited for what's to come for Corona. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I really didn't know Roger until I got elected. I knew Jacob because I was thoroughly barking at him, but I never got a chance to bark at Roger. And my first opportunity, he stole it from me. He was kind and loving, and he walked me through a lot of stuff early on in my learning curve. And it turns out Roger just wasn't being nice. It's just that's who Roger is. He will tackle issues. He will chase them down. He will research. He always tries to be honest in his dealings and helpfulness. And I agree with the other four that he will be missed. I would also like to remind Roger that he'll no longer be working for the city, and he will be driving the 91 freeway every day. So the council member for RCTC is Wes Speak. Wes.speak@coronaca.gov. He likes long emails. Feel free to demand complicated solutions rapidly from him, and daily communication preferred. So even while you're in the car making the drive, just give him a call. So with that, Godspeed, Roger, and you will do a good job, no doubt, in anybody's mind in this room. And with that, I turn it over to you, Mayor.
What an interesting perspective. I did not think about that as just a citizen of the city of Corona. Vice Mayor is correct. west.speak@coronaca.gov. I think
just don't
that
go at
would be,
night, that's
I think
all.
that would be wonderful, Roger, of you to give a little piece of your mind to the council member. Roger, you know, I'm so proud of you for going after a goal, setting a goal and going after it and achieving it. That's what it's all about. So congratulations on your appointment to city manager of the great city of Downey. They are very lucky to have you. If ever I find myself driving through Downey, I will make sure I let you know. I will allow you to buy lunch at Porto's, which I'm jealous that you now are going to have a city that you have one. So congratulations and good luck. And I want to, ahead of time, just express my condolences for the drive. So until you figure that piece out. As far as my comments, I went full West Speak today. So I've got 2 pages, and I'm very excited to go over all of them. I've been a busy guy. I did attend the Unity Awards at the Circle City Center, hosted none other by Councilmember Jim Steiner. The awards were great. They went to students in our community that are not only great students, but also doing great things in their community. So very, very excited to listen about the students and all that they're doing. And all the emotion from the teachers and the nominating parties that came up. On the 23rd, myself and Councilmember Richens staff met with Congressman Calvert to go over our legislative asks for projects in Corona. This is great because we have, you know, a very clearly defined set of asks that we're going over. So to elicit their support and to understand, you know, some of the initiatives that they have and how they will benefit Corona. So thank you to staff for being very well prepared and making sure that we were talking about the right things. On the 26th, myself and Councilmember Richens attended the Crystal Apple Awards hosted by the LDS Church in Corona, honoring CNUSD teachers for their excellence in teaching. These teachers are truly making an impact in their students' life as they were selected by high school students for this honor. So it was great to listen to the students talk about why they were nominating their teachers and a little bit about the teachers. On the 28th, I attended the Women's Improvement Club of Corona Luncheon. I was asked to speak on what is going on in Corona and answered many questions from the members. I don't know why, but every time I do a Q&A, I am getting hit. With the members from WIC or the 3rd grade classes, I'm getting hit with questions that I'm glad that I read all of this stuff because they come with a bunch of questions. I don't have to tell Councilmember Speak or Vice Mayor Richens what a beautiful facility they have there. I have never been in the actual facility. I only saw it from the outside. So I highly recommend that if you ever have an opportunity to see the building, it's completely worth it. Also wanted to give a plug for them. They're obviously always looking for ladies to join their organization. They're having their 12th annual Women's Improvement Club of Corona Gala, honoring those that serve. That's going to be on March 18th. If you're interested in attending, please contact WIC. And they're also having a fundraiser for their causes that will be held at the Texas Roadhouse on the 23rd. 10% of your bill goes to their charities. Also on the 28th, I was on a Zoom for the City Selection Committee. I was nominated and accepted an appointment as an alternate for the Countywide Oversight Board as the Western Regional Representative. I was kind of voluntold on that one, but that worked out well. And then on the evening of the 28th, I attended the new business reception at the Circle City Center hosted by our economic development team. Got to interact with folks starting businesses in Corona or thinking about bringing their business to Corona. A couple things that I wanted to highlight. I sat at a table with a gentleman by the name of Gary Gattori, and he has opened up 951 Ukulele here in Corona. It's on 6th Street, right by the Miguel Juniors. The ukulele has been a long-time passion for him, and he is very entrenched in that niche community, and he has opened his own ukulele shop right here in Corona. There were several current students of the, and I always get this right, say it for me.
Emprendedores.
Thank you. I wrote it down and I still can't say it. the academy, and I had some great conversations. One student in particular, a current student, her name was Rosa, marched right up to me. She was very nervous to come and talk to me, but she is going through the program because she has hopes to open, she's a seamstress, and she has hopes to open a alterations shop here in Corona. Apparently, her and her mom have been doing alterations their entire life. And as we were talking, English was not her first language. Spanish was her first language. And I encouraged her to continue working on her English because it opens up a whole set of new customers for her to be more comfortable communicating with. And when I said that to her, she said, you know, I just signed up at Norco College because they are offering free classes for folks wanting to work on their English speaking skills. And what's important about this class is that it's not for people that are looking for college credit. It's just for people that are looking to broaden their English speaking skills. And I thought that that was such a great offering, and I was very happy that they were there to offer that to people that are looking for that. And thank you for the economic development team for having them there. The other highlight for me was I got to spend some time with Corona High School Vice Principal Dina Rodriguez. And she is over all of the trade opportunities that CNUSD offers. So you can take a culinary class, which that was one of my A's in school, was culinary. There's metal and welding certificates available, HVAC certificates available, CNC machining, and these certificates allow these students to go right into good jobs in these industries for those that maybe college isn't for them. So they want to go into the workforce, and they have plenty of opportunities. I only listed a few, there was many more. But so I wanted to shout out for Vice Principal Dina Rodriguez at Corona High School. Very excited for them. Also, last weekend was supposed to be the Fire and Ice Chili Cook-Off, but due to weather, they decided to reschedule, and I'm very happy that they've already rescheduled for March 18th. I will be judging the chili contest. I'm a little nervous because I have a very sensitive palate to spice. So hopefully they've got lots of water there for me. But I'm excited. They've got a great lineup of vendors and entertainers. I believe, I hope that they got them rescheduled, they're going to be having Yachty by Nature. So I'm very excited about that. If you went and saw them at our summer concert series, I think they did a wonderful job. They bring a lot of good energy. Yesterday, I received a call from a resident in District 2, Andres Gutierrez, and he was having an issue. The street that he lives on, just north of the 91 freeway, was having a drainage issue. At the end of the street, there's a French drain that just years of overgrowth and whatnot had gotten clogged, and it was backing up onto his driveway. And before he reached out to me, he had spoken with Director Compu earlier in the day. And I stopped by his residence. I took a look. I took some pictures, and I drafted an email to the city manager. And later on in the day, and about 45 minutes after I sent that email, I got a call from Mr. Gutierrez, and he was very excited because there was a crew there already working on removing all of the drain clog, and I didn't know that he had already talked to Director Compu, and so I thought, man, this is great. I sent an email, and 45 minutes later, they're out there working on it. And I had an opportunity to stop by on the way to another meeting, and all of our workers were out there. They were doing a great job, and that was when I learned that he had already talked to Director Compu. So I wanted to shout out to Savat and his department for doing a great job, really getting out there and coming up. It wasn't just cleaning out the drain. I mean, there's a whole plan behind it. They're going to work with the neighboring business. There's a berm that's kind of causing a lot of this to. So there's a whole plan to solve this issue, so that moving forward, it's not going to be an issue, because, as you know, all of the rain that we get here in Corona, or even today, there was snow. A couple updates. I talked about some mayor town halls that I'm going to be holding. I have the dates. So March 11th at Victoria Park, June 10th at the HCC Theater. In September, I don't have a date, but I will be at the Corona Norco Mosque. They're going to host an evening that will be open to the public for a town hall. And then in November, we'll be back at the HCC Theater. I love doing these events because I get an opportunity to have a conversation with the folks of Corona. And then lastly, last week, our neighbor to the north, Norco, suffered a major loss to their community. Mayor Pro Tem Ted Hoffman passed unexpectedly. Ted was many things. He was an Army veteran, a retired Riverside County Sheriff Sergeant, a rodeo enthusiast, and most importantly, he was a husband, father, and grandfather. As a lifelong Norconian and dedicated volunteer, Ted's contributions will have a lasting impact on life in Norco, and the entire community will feel a profound sense of loss. Ted is survived by his wife, daughter, and 2 grandsons, and as such, I'd like to close this meeting in honor. Our next meeting will be March 15th, the Ides of March, 2023. Thank you very much.
Day into the morning sun.